Call the meeting to order at 2:01 p.m. Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Orleans Committee of the Whole meeting for May 20th, 2026. This meeting is being held in person and through the platform Zoom. The link for virtual participation can be found on today's agenda or on the city's website. My name is Jeff Sproul. I am the Deputy Mayor of Orleans, and I will be chairing this Committee of Whole meeting. This meeting will have no action by the council and will serve as an information and discussion meeting. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member Tracy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call roll?
Ventura,
Present.
Don Tracy,
Present.
Present.
Dan Hall,
Present.
Craig Hogan,
Present.
Present. And Council Member Williams had already informed us that he couldn't make today's meeting, so he's excused. Information will be presented to council and the public to better understand not only current events and activities in the city, but to preview potential future agenda bills to be voted on at a later date in a council meeting. Council will have discussion following each presentation by staff and the opportunity to ask questions of the presenter. I will initially call on each council member for questions and subsequent questions by raising your hand and waiting for the chair to acknowledge you. Audience members will not be able to participate at this meeting during the discussion of council. At this time, I will ask for any requests for additions or modifications to the agenda. Is Michelle in the room today, or is she presenting?
Michelle is at a training today.
Okay. Then I was thinking of, on the agenda bills, switching B with C, and then that way Kim can leave after that and her two presentations would go back to back rather than having Mark in between them. And then if she needs to leave out of here and go home and fight traffic, then she can certainly do that.
Oh, Deputy, she fights traffic, I can assure you.
Okay, so we will have AB 2654 as item B and AB 2652 as item C. Those are the only changes. And with that, let's get into presentations. Wastewater General Sewer Plan Utility Rates.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Council. Hold on a moment to get this pulled up. I didn't factor in, this is my eyesight. So I'll do the best I can on this. So anyway, well, thank you, everyone. I think as you're all aware of, is that we've been having some challenges with the latest phase for our wastewater treatment process. And I kind of wanted to kind of first step back a little bit and just a little bit of the history. So it's hard to imagine that treating wastewater is fairly recent technology. And up until the 1930s, we literally had sewage ditches running through town and discharging into the Carbon and Puyallup rivers. I became aware of this one day in a public works meeting with I'm not sure if Engineer Hungerford was there or if it was with Engineer Roberts, but we saw an easement for what appeared to be, I wasn't quite sure what it was. There was actually a sewage ditch that was going across. It was not a wetland. Yeah, but it was discharging onto the Carbon River, and it just was kind of a reminder to let you know that this is still a fairly recent thing that we've moved to. So the city of Orleans in the late 1930s used an MHOP process, which is basically a large tank that allows for some settling of the solids before prior to being discharged from that. And we were discharging fuel up in Carbon River at the time, up until about 1972, when we were once again cited by the department, well, I should say once again, cited by the Department of Health for issues, and we were discharging raw sewage into both rivers. In 1973, the Clean Water Act came into play. In 1972, the Clean Water, 73, the Clean Water Act came into play, and then that inspired the next step, which was a biological process, or lagoon, that we have in operation still today, working in conjunction with the SBR system. The lagoon worked great for many, many years, low maintenance, very few mechanical parts, moving aerators. You have a line or a seal that needs to be replaced occasionally, but it's a fairly basic technology allowing what Mother Nature does to treat biological processes naturally. And it has served us well for many years. Up until the 1990s, before the growth came, it worked great. In the 1990s, with all the growth coming to us, we needed to upgrade our system. So the city stepped up again, and once again, we were under the direction of the Department of Ecology to upgrade our system. And so at that time, we were looking to development help pay for this to go forward. We didn't have any general facility charges. We had no way to fund a new treatment plant. And so we worked with Parametrics, and we were one of the first to develop general facility charges for developers coming into a region to help pay for that plan. That plant was built, and in my mind, it's still a new facility, but it was in operation in 1997, which is essentially about 30 years. And so when I was looking at this, I thought, gee, it's about like every 30 years, and we're looking at a need to renew our treatment facility. This treatment plant that we have now has been able to meet and exceed all of our Department of Ecology requirements, but it's gotten a little bit towards the end of its life, and it's in need of renewal. Slide. So what we looked at was upon taking office with Administrator Bethune and then with staff and our engineering firm, we looked at what was proposed for a capital improvement plan by Wilson Engineering and our city engineer. And what we saw was unobtainable for us, or it appeared to be unattainable. And we were looking at about $120 million. It was going to be submitted for 2 years. And unfortunately, we don't have the resources, financial resources to go on that type of schedule, nor the wherewithal to make something like that happen. So we've stepped back a little bit and reassessed our current system that we have right now, and assessed the solids plan that we had that was in progress with Wilson Engineering. And that process would be fairly costly. Of course, it would work, but we have more urgent priorities in front of that needed to be addressed before we got to that solids process. And that was the big deal. And then that was identified in the capital improvement plan that we had some blind spots, some very weak areas that we needed to address. So seeing that, we looked to the Department of Ecology to meet with them to see what options that we had. And we presented to them under the impression that we wanted to extend the life of the lagoon that we have now to allow us time to be able to make other repairs that were desperately needed and everything. With the presentation of Department of Ecology, they were very supportive of a plan that was a near-term, mid-term, and long-term strategy to go forward, addressing the most critical single point failure points we have in our system first, and then working our way out. And then with a review built into it every 5 to 7 years, where we can maybe come back and reassess where we're at and everything. Slide, please. Boy, this is great. My eyesight should have something here. So we talked about this. So anyway, what we found was the lagoon process we have right now is currently in a near state of failure, and that we did some temporary measures. Council did some temporary measures to tie us forward, to move us forward. And if you look at the large black bags, those are geobags, that they were able to remove some of the solids and create capacity in our treatment plan. The other thing that we found was our collection system has some issues with infiltration and inflow of water into the system that was overwhelming our process. When we had the high flow events this last winter, we had peak flows approaching 5 million gallons. And with a plant design of approximately 1.5 million. Near that, there we go. I was gonna for our supervisor for wastewater. Oh, 1.8 million, I'm sorry. So at any rate, we far exceeded the plant's, rated capacities and everything, which created a real issue. The other item that we found was a communication system that's extremely dated, and when you look at it, we have some of our systems were put in the 1990s, and now we're into the late 2020s. And so there's some upgrades that seriously needed to be addressed and needed to go forward. And most importantly, we have a headwork system where all the water enters into the plant through a single channel and then goes through a screening process. And we've experienced recent failures as recent as today in that system. And so it underlined the priority that needed to be upgraded and repaired. And this last winter, that was also the point of failure that we had, where we end up with an overflow situation into our lagoon from the headworks. So slide. So we had to develop a plan, and when we were speaking with Wilson and with Parametrics, we wanted to identify those 3 strategies. What do we have to do right now, 2026 immediately? Then what do we have to do next, 2027, 2028? And this council is going to be faced with some major decisions to go forward. And I think that one of the decisions is that we're moving away from the focus on the solids building, new solids treatment facility, and moving towards renewing the facility that we have right now, working from the most critical components first, and then working our way out from there. So the first item that we need to do is we need to regain that capacity in the lagoon, and then begin the process of having the engineering performed for the headworks facility to get that started, and also for a slight expansion of the existing control building that we have right now. And the reason why we included that expansion was that it's going to be the backbone for the future upgrades for the telemetry and for the computer systems, control systems of the treatment plant. So that needs to be in place before we can start making those next upgrades to the plant process. So that slide, please. I think you actually, this last slide, you can see the headworks right there, and that's what they actually built today with the shaft. And so they're currently working with that and trying to locate parts to get it back online again. So that's like I said, is a point we're at a point where we need to have some redundancy in that area to allow for maintenance and for flows to continue unrestricted. The other key item that we needed to address that I didn't talk about, there's 2 other items. Flow monitoring. This in 2026, we need to begin a flow monitoring system process to look at our dry season and our wet season flows and identify where those flows are coming into the plant, so that we can identify the places which need to be repaired first. We suspect a few key areas that are the major contributors to the inflow infiltration of the plant, namely along the Carbon River, with where it goes from River Street to the treatment plant. So that's kind of a high suspect area, just because of the nature of the trees, the water table, and proximity to the river there. So we're gonna try and make sure that we identify where that's at. Another key thing before we go too far forward is that we're going to be asking council to approve an organizational study on the Public Works Department, and look and make sure that we're right sized to be able to go forward with. And when we go before the ratepayers, we need to be able to show that we're making all of the steps to be as fiscally responsible as we can. And so we want to have a reliable system that we have in place that's going to produce clean water to be discharged into the Carbon River, that's economical for our ratepayers, and that we're also getting the most out of the staff that we have to ensure that happens and everything. So that's gonna be part of the request that we're gonna be coming forward to you with this year as well. So far we have lagoon dredging beginning 2026, flow monitoring 2026, staff organizational study 2026 to make sure that we're staffed correctly, to have a reliable process there in the wastewater treatment facility. Slide. So anyway, I'm just gonna have to wing it here. So anyway, so this is a picture of this last winter that you can see there, and it's never good when you see HESCO bags protecting your buildings because your levels have risen so high in a lagoon. And that just kind of demonstrates the urgency of this issue and everything, that we need to regain that capacity back in the treatment plan. So we've started with beginning with that, the solids removal, staff study, organizational study, flow monitoring, engineering of the headworks, and also the building. The following year, those are all of our near term priorities. And slide please. And then we move into the actions so that by 2028, we should hopefully be going to construction on some of these items. We need to have that headworks. And I think that our public works would be happy if it could happen before then, but knowing the amount of work that our engineering firm's gonna have to do to make that happen is probably more likely between late 27 and 28 before we see action happening on the headworks and on the treatment facility, on the control building. Following that, we need to go out for engineering, out for bid for engineering to upgrade the process improvement inside the treatment plant. And what that's gonna do, that's gonna gain us the capacity as we move forward by working with our control system within the plant, a newer updated control system and mechanical devices that will help make that plant run more efficiently going forward. A lot of our equipment is, again, 1995, mid-1990s dated. And so it was the technology at that time, and the technology that we have today is far more advanced, more efficient aeration blowers, more efficient ways of transferring the oxygen into the water, more efficient ways of disinfecting with the UV system. And speaking of the UV system, that is also obsolete. And right now they've been getting parts off of eBay. So we need to be able to update some of these systems that are just, at the point where they're into their life cycle, we're able to make it, but they need to be updated. So in that next phase, following the headworks and control building, we'll be needing to upgrade the internal plant process and upgrade the systems, aeration, the diffusers, the disinfection, and the most importantly, the control system of all those devices to allow us the flexibility to optimize that plant for operation and everything. Slide. This is a picture of their computer operations room, and I think that it actually makes it look bigger than it is. You can kind of see, this is probably cleaner than when I saw it. So it looks pretty good right now in the picture. There's a lot of equipment, computers that we have there that's communicating with each other and with their control systems. And just out now speaking, we need that to create that additional space to be able to bring in some upgraded servers for the control systems for the treatment plant. And also during that time is we need to look at a telemetry study to include our water system as well for all of our offsite facilities, pump lift stations to communicate with our treatment plant. So we have a lot of work in the way of communication and telemetry to go forward with on that, and it's going to take a little bit of space, and so that backbone has to be in place before we can start doing that telemetry work and the control system work in the plant. And that, if you can imagine that, the operators working in there, you can't really see it, but just at the edge of the screen is the desk, and that's the space that they have to work in. And so we want to be able to create a space where they have their computers, but they also have their operation area. Some of the key things that I saw that could be improved is just the alarm system itself and getting the right information to the operators at the right time, and then give them the ability to respond to the changing flows and conditions with the sequencing on the sequence batch reactor that right now runs basically it has a limited operational flexibility. It's basically a timer system. And it's not necessarily looking at all of the different control points that it possibly can to adjust to high flows, which we experienced in the winter months. Next slide, please. So midterm to long term, what we need to do is we need to have a way of pulling back, and we're gonna go ahead and upgrade, renew our treatment process that we have right now, renew our solids treatment process at the lagoon. We do have that flexibility with the Department of Ecology. There is no definite timeline for when or if we have to make upgrades to the lagoon, which was really helpful for us because it gave us the time to do it. When we met with them and talked with them, we were talking 5 to 7 years of reevaluating where we're at with that before we look at building a solids facility and everything. But that said, that's not necessarily a requirement of us. It just means that we need to monitor that. They're gonna require us to put some test wells to ensure that we have no water that's leaching through the liner into the groundwater there, but you know, that's just something that would require a new lagoon or any lagoon going in today. Yeah, so at any rate, that's kind of where we're at. And I think that the overall plan that we have now has gone to a 20-year phased plan, near, midterm, and long-term improvements, and an evaluation process on that. And then, yeah, this also ties into our rate study. When we were looking at, our goal was initially we had a 25% projected rate increase for sanitary sewer. And that just was a no starter for us. It was just really just too much, I think, for the citizens to take on. After reviewing the rate study, and it'll be coming before you, we're looking right now at about a 6% increase in rates to be able to stay consistent with our capital improvement plan going forward. And I thought that was really good. That's with that right isn't showing any staffing changes, but that's focused just on the operations and maintenance of the facility for that we have in the capital improvements we need to make our facilities to keep up and everything. So, slide. So questions, and so we have Engineer Hungerford with us and Steve Daston with the treatment plant. If you have any questions, I can answer. Ed.
Did Parametrics design the original plan in 72?
Oh, good question. You know, I don't know who did the lagoon in 1972. I don't think it was Parametrics though.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was designed for 1.5 million. Were you saying we're taking in 5 million?
No, actually, you corrected me, it was 1.8, but the SPR system was done by Parametrics. We actually received a national recognition for that treatment plant. When we built it, it was cutting edge. It was under Mayor Paul Rossi, and engineer Doug Berkshauer was the person who was the engineer at the time that did it, and it was cutting edge technology for the period that we did it. And the idea of the plant, which was I thought was ingenious, is that it was a sequence batch reactor that you add on an additional cell to gain more capacity. So we built it with the idea that we would have to add on additional cells in the future to keep up. And it was a package type of plant where you could continually expand off of it. So the city received a lot of recognition for it, and it served us well. Yelm has essentially, they just switched over to a different process, but they had the same process, the same time that we did it, operated very well.
Okay, so in the mid 80s, we had a smoke test here. I think Sam Colorado was mayor. And so I think that eliminated a lot of the leaks that were coming in, rainwater, and groundwater was coming into the pipes. So that line from River Street up to the plant right now, I believe it's a 20-inch concrete pipe. And it's probably the biggest culprit, like you say, of water coming in.
Yeah, I agree with the Cottonwood Freeze there. They're really intrusive.
Correct.
And that's
I'm sure that pipe is in bad shape.
Yeah. So that's something that we need to evaluate, do flow monitoring and TV that line. The recommendation of the capital improvement plan was actually to replace that line and build a line parallel to it, going to the plant. That was extremely costly to do. So we were looking at some options to repair in place type of option with that line. JC, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Sure.
Yeah, so as the mayor stated, I agree with you, that line's probably one of the bigger concerns in the city as well as older concrete pipes. Newer developments are gonna be new PVC. They're more resilient, but the old concrete joints separate, roots come in, they crack. So would likely, I don't know of any major capacity issues with that line. They did some modeling, but we would want to look a little bit closer into that. So relining in situ type technologies where they come in and blow a liner in, and then either do a steam or UV cure on that. Essentially built a new pipe inside the pipe with minimal capacity restrictions and long lifetime, essentially getting like a new fiberglass equivalent to a PVC pipe inside of that existing pipe. Also, you want to rehab those manholes. They're probably old, either brick or cone sections. Similar water will come in through those joints over time on the cone sections and they fail. So there's various technologies and injectables that you can use on manholes. You can reline them to prevent that ionized intrusion of groundwater. So you're not paying to treat clean water.
Right.
You buy plant capacity with that.
So whose responsibility is it when all these homes that have concrete pipe going out to their sites or service? That all needs to be replaced. Who's responsible for that? I know there's a lot of water going into those concrete pipes. How many homes are on concrete pipe right now?
Yeah, it's the homeowner's responsibility. And so that's really important. In the 1990s, we did a major, we went through, we TP'd the lines and we made a commitment to the Department of Ecology to continually reduce our infiltration and inflow into our system. And at that time, that was part of what we were recognized for as a city that could. We identified all the points to side sewers. Kansas was probably one of the worst areas, if I remember correctly. And that's being upgraded right now. But we had a lot of citizens that did it, and we had volunteers that helped citizens do it at that time. And it's a little bit different world right now. I don't know how many people will have the appetite to do that. Many of your newer homes are not going to be, all of our new standards, building standards they're going to be pretty solid, but Earl,
Right.
is probably the most difficult area.
Right.
But we identified the worst contributors through the 90s and all the way through the 2000s with multiple TVing of the lines and everything. So, yeah.
All right.
We did find problems there was a couple new developments. We did find issues even with some of the new developments that were installed, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Mayor, for that presentation. I was surprised when I visited the plant a few times. The size of the heads works, I couldn't believe it was handling the whole city. Unbelievable. But I mean, yeah, I can see where that could be a big issue. Now so you say we're gonna upgrade our lab, the servers, and increase the space for workstations so they're not working in the lab. I mean,
Yeah.
the lab's just going to be for the lab, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when do you think we're going to have to replace that liner?
There is no definite time on that. That's why we're gonna be putting in the test wells to work with that. That's probably the bigger elephant in the room. And I think when we do our evaluation, one of the things that came back to us was the return on investment. With right now, for us to remove the solids, transfer them, it's cheaper than building a new facility. It's gonna take us a while to recoup that money again. So right now, we're looking at 7 years, and then having the conversation again, but I don't believe that there's any end date timeframe that they said. Jason, you recall anything? Yeah, mostly just monitoring the current water.
Yeah, That was my next question. I heard we were going to put in some monitoring wells. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah,
Do
we
you know-
currently do have some and they just
Right.
need 2 additional ones.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And then I noticed, I don't know if it was last year, I noticed Public Works reworked a couple manholes in one of the developments. I mean, looked like they did what you're talking about, fixing them from when the contractors built them. I don't know. Do you know?
We found some different sealed lids.
Yeah, so.
So,
What we did 2 years ago was we purchased what's called a duo seal manhole lid from EJ. And on that line, on the Carbon River line, like you were talking about, Councilmember Torres, we installed the ones that are submerged during the wet season when we get those high flows. They are waterproof up to 50 feet, so we stopped that I&I coming into that line from there. We also, when contractors are in the area working in any sewer lines, we give them one of those manhole lids to install. That way it's the newer watertight manhole lid, so that way we can reduce that I&I issue in our system. So we do have a couple left at the plant, but those are when we have contractors working in, and then we had, I believe it was Rodarty out. They replaced one of the manholes in front of the Texaco station and the other one just on this side of the bridge. Because of the way it was, we call them slappers, when you drive over, you hear the clunk clunk. We call those slappers, and those need to be replaced because that ring is wearing now, which then allows water to seep in and things like that to increase the I&I and the flow to the plant. So we've been diligently assessing during the winter time, pulling manhole lids, seeing what ones are the worst ones in the city. That way, during the summertime, when things dry up, we can go grout the areas that we can reach, and we try to seal up as many as possible before the rains come to help reduce any I&I from the street level to help the plant out as much as possible.
Thank you. And one last thing, Mayor. So I know decades ago, the city used to be way too nice and they would actually go, so at the property line, then the homeowner's responsible for their sewer line, correct?
that's correct, yeah, yeah,
And
and I think we're gonna be reviewing some of that as well, for clean out purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, back in the day, you didn't have easy cleanouts in any of those. Is that right? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I got another question. The liner or the lagoon has been there since 72, correct?
It actually had a second liner put in.
So
So it's-
it's been replaced, the liner's been replaced. Okay. When was the new one replaced?
You know, I'm not sure, JC, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, so.
Okay,
It had a second liner in there, so.
all right,
Yeah,
that's
that-
it.
I think that
Thank
was
you.
really important because there's a lot of information in this book around. It is there, but yeah, so. What the goal would be to get another full renewal cycle of this treatment plant before we have to really look at going through a major process change and a major. Full building a new treatment facility. That I think that if we focus on upgrading our technology within the plant that we have right now, we're gonna be able to achieve another, hopefully another 20 or 30 years of service out of that facility, so.
Question, is there any room to add another lagoon in that area down there? I haven't actually been down there.
Yeah.
I don't know how much work it is to put in a lagoon. Is it a lot of piping? Or is it just, you dig the hole, put the liner in, there's a few inlets and outlets?
I'm here to speak to that.
It seemed like it might help for cleaning the existing lagoon, extend the life, because you can switch back and forth a little bit.
Oh, for operational flexibility, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Pretty constrained on land. It all has to be within that levee that is around the existing plant. So anything outside is outside your permit and outside that flood control berm that was constructed as part. So I mean, there's a small corner of the near SDR cell 3.
would it be possible to use that as a temporary facility while you take care of the other one, get it back up to speed, and so you could have somewhere to go back and forth when there is an issue?
Potentially. I mean, it's a, you know.
Have we looked at the footprint?
Constructed of a, you know, a double welded, liner,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd have to, there's a chlorine contact chamber that's there that would have to be demolished, as well as some supporting infrastructure. There's also a pump station, the on-site pump station is in that corner, which would have to be worked around. Might provide some flexibility as you're looking for, you know, if you're gonna extend the life of your lagoon, and reconstruct and reline. Other options are like temporary berms to kind of isolate what's there and reconstruct.
Right.
So we did a project for Montesano where we actually shrunk their footprint, by half.
So how hard would it be to get permitting to extend a new lagoon area out a little bit,
Out of the
footprint that we have now?
Pretty challenging.
Pretty challenging.
Outside that levee, you'd have to build, because you're in the regulatory floodway,
Mhm.
you have to build it's a critical facility. Have to provide a level of protection to the 500-year flood, so you'd be building a flood control berm. Probably you would be renewing portions of your NPDS permit topology. Pretty lengthy and costly process there.
So it is a possible option?
Everything's possible with enough money. Yeah.
I mean, cost wise, and have we looked at that?
Councilmember, you brought up that conversation is a really important one, is can you actually upgrade that lagoon to have different cells where you go in and do maintenance on one and while the other one's in operation?
Right.
And I think that's something that we should look at as we go forward with the lagoon to upgrade it.
Mhm.
It's a possible solution and everything.
So if we could build a small lagoon in an area there, we could use temporarily and then go in and redo the one we've got.
Yeah, that would be something to think about in the future and everything
Mhm.
on
Okay.
that. Yeah, I think, key thing is that we need to keep up on the dredging so that this year isn't a one and done type of thing.
Yeah.
That most likely we'll be back into it again the second year too.
It's pretty hard to dredge though, is what we found out, to dredge a pond when you're still using it.
Yeah, well, they have equipment that actually can do that can actually draw right off the bottom. I think better than what we have with these geotech cells.
Right.
When we go out for this, that will actually pull off that bottom blanket of sludge. And it's probably gonna be over a couple year period of time. And then we're gonna wanna probably do this every couple of years. Have somebody come out and remove some of the sludge. It won't be as extensive as what we've had. We've had over 6 years of buildup now in the lagoon, and that's probably why we're in the place that we're at right now. But if we were to do this every couple of years, it's not as big of a deal. It'll be a much less.
You've found better methods of doing it than what we're doing right now though.
Oh, yeah. There are other ways to do it. To go forward with. It's still labor intensive, but I think there's companies out there that have gotten really pretty good at doing
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Wiring. So we'll probably, the next steps will be bringing before council, starting that process to go forward and award a bid. Go for bid for a company to do that work. And so we can capitalize on the summer season, and it probably will be starting sometime in July through, getting out by October before the rain season hits, but we want to get in there and get as much of it removed right now, that's right. There's gonna be a lot of work just removing the sludge from the geobays that are there. That's gonna be a significant amount of work as well.
Councilmember Holland?
Probably answer some of the questions I was looking at to see the financial piece to it. That's we gotta fine line, spend so much money, so when are we gonna look at the numbers?
Thanks, Stanley. Yeah, and I kind of glazed over that in the presentation. We're looking at like different finance packaging options for each phase as we go through. Administrator Bethune can answer some of that. I know he's been looking at it already.
Yeah, we have a statutory limit, which is below what you're going to need for sewer and water. So we got to work this. And we're actually going to need a consultation for someone to help us know how much we could get and how often, and what we can afford. And what's the impact on interest rates when our debt ceiling gets reached. And so we've got to answer all those questions. This is a very serious issue. And the state withdrew some of the funds that it has had in the past through the Department of Ecology for loans. And grants are really hard to get for these kind of facilities. So it's an uphill battle, but we're getting ready for it.
So I got a couple of questions. You said that it was rated at 1.8 million gallons and we're experiencing a water flow of 5 million gallons.
Up to about
Up
4.8.
to.
Yeah, plus what I actually witnessed one day.
So we don't know where that water is coming from?
We don't know exactly which portion of the city where it's coming from or lines which are failing, so we have to identify those first, yes.
So, I mean, I've heard things like manhole covers. I can't imagine manhole covers are 4 times the amount of water seeping into the line, so.
Yeah, and one thing that you notice is that the flows will come up and they'll say sustained, as the water table comes up, that water is just draining into our system and going through and being treated in our treatment plant. So, I suspect, near the river, that trunk line right there, but we won't know for certain until we actually get a study out there to determine where it's at. Yeah.
Everybody else got this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, you're right, Governor Stroll. We don't know exactly where it's coming from. We can only suspect. And before we set up a project, we need to verify it for certain.
And then I think it was in July of last year, the Department of Ecology came out here and wrote a pretty interesting letter. And part of that was the freeboard in the lagoon was at critical stage. And I know we took a lot of waste out, but where are we today on the freeboard?
Well, it has improved considerably, but what we removed is probably less than 5% what's in the lagoon right now. So we have a long ways to go.
Because, we're back in summer now, and I think their concern at the time they wrote that letter was what's coming in the fall and winter time, and we saw that drastically.
Yeah.
And I just want to know that we're going to be prepared for this coming fall and winter. I mean, or are we going to, I mean, some of your photos showed that we exceeded our freeboard, right?
Yeah, we were up and we were actually getting into some of our mechanical rooms in the treatment plant. So during the high flows this last winter, so we have some work to do to regain that capacity in the lagoon. So yeah, and I think that's why it's urgent for all of you that this comes forward, that we move on it, we act on it. It's going to be costly, but I think that we're going to go back when we go out for this proposal to award a bid for a company. We're going to have tighter specifications for the dewatering process and how they're going to actually process the sludge from the lagoon and remove it. So we're looking to hopefully see that happening no later than mid-July is my goal. And they'll probably be mobilized here for a couple months, just continuously removing that sludge till we regain, renew some of that capacity.
And then last year, I know Councilmember Tracy and I had talked to Director McBee about getting a tour of that facility. That never happened. So I've never been down there, but you just spoke of the control room, computer rooms. Are those underground or are those above ground? Those are above ground. So we don't have any equipment that is below.
We do have below grade equipment as well, but the control room's all above grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the equipment that is below
Yeah,
ground?
there are some blowers, there's a mechanical room that sits down below grade. And the same thing happens with our lift stations too. You have some, they're all, most of them are mostly at grade that I'm aware, but I should say they're actually, some of them are slightly below grade, but yeah. But all of them need to be updated with the new telemetry plan.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Tracy?
just want to correct that. I did get a tour of the facility, and it was a very good tour. I explained a lot of the same things you're talking about. We are gonna have our work cut out to get the whole situation resolved. I think we gotta really look at a lot of different options going into that, so.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to build out until we had the foundation of a reliable functional facility really renewed before we explored going to another technology.
Well, we need to be thinking like Councilman Reed did there, looking outside the box when we're looking at all these things. And a lot of them are definitely have constraints on the Department of Ecology, or how like JC was talking about, you know, just can't do them.
Yeah. So.
Councilmember Hogan.
Thank you, Deputy. Mayor, back in the day when we had a Public Works Committee, we had been discussing since about 2025 a thing called G3 wastewater technology. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
No comment?
I think there are a lot of things that get presented that may not be a long-term fix. They might be a short-term patch, but they're not widely used in the industry. So I would tend to shy away from that with a more proven long-term fix.
Good, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, Mayor, for the presentation. Thank you. Okay, and that takes us to community reports, Ording Business Association. Nobody here?
Nobody here.
We will go to the Ording School District Elementary School Bond Project Update.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Administrator, Council. It's a pleasure to be here today with me. I'm Ed Assenberger, Superintendent of the Ording School District, year 5 in that capacity, former high school principal, another former high school principal, and former teacher and coaches. Right next to me now, our Executive Director of Business and Operations, Cliff Reese. Many of you know Cliff. And joining us is our owner's representative, Liz Leroy, Dunfield now with her new married name. And she's represented the district on many matters to help us through and facilitate moving forward. So we're happy to share. Mayor, do you have an anticipated timeline of where you'd like us to be from a sharing perspective?
We go 10 minutes to
2 Okay, we got it. We'll play through relatively. So I just am so appreciative of many of you who have been championing this cause from even before we started. We have run 7 failed bond attempts starting back in 2017. And what we noticed when we started back again in 2023, we just kept making measurable improvement. For some of you that don't know, in 2023, post-COVID, school bonds across the state were the lowest they've ever been, about an 8% approval rate. So we knew we had a road to dig ourselves out of to get forward progress, and we kept seeing forward movement. Under my tenure, we failed 5 times in a row, but November 2025, I'm happy to say we finally pulled it all together. And so this bond really approved 2 things under a $137.2 million project, which we're going to share with you about tonight. It helped to create a new wing at Ording High School, which will be focused entirely on career and technical education, and a new elementary school. Ording Elementary, as it currently sits, has been there since the mid-60s. Built for 290 kids, and we've been double that capacity for a hot minute now. So we're going to share what's been moving forward. We are lucky to be here today representing about 2,800 students across 45 square miles. As you know, the city of Ording is our only incorporated city, but we now serve communities with Graham, Bonnie Lake, and Puyallup. And we have been growing in our outskirts, so we're going to share a little bit about what that means from a construction perspective. 378 staff members, many of whom work and live locally as well. So we're happy to be home to many of our former graduates. Some of those are relatives of yours, and we love that when they come back out of high school and come back to work for us moving forward. So really keeping that community voice and ownership. In 2023, We ran the first bond, but that wasn't a decision that was made lightly. That was reflective of a year and a half of community work. We had a citizens facility advisory committee. In its heyday and its strength, we're about 80 members strong, really helping to shape this. So community voice has been a value of ours. And then moving forward, now that we've passed, and I'm proud to say, not only did we pass, but we were the second highest percentage of yes votes across any bond measure last year across the state. So for that kind of strong support locally, we feel very blessed and grateful that our community came together and saw the need and stood with us on that. So helping to maintain that community oversight, we do have a community group. Well, we put the call out across the over 20,000 residents in district. And we have 13 members strong, come be a part of that ongoing oversight. So our oversight committee will be providing regular and ongoing community feedback in the process to make sure that promises made are promises kept. Some of what you're going to see tonight is not only a continuation of that committee's work, but inclusive and reflective of staff feedback, student feedback, community feedback. We've been holding lots of listening sessions since we passed in November, trying to shape what you're going to see today, which is the amalgam of where we're at today. So part of the overview you're going to get from Cliff, Liz, and myself is just what's been happening since then. What are some of the major milestones, timelines, and what are perceived to be impact that might be happening in the city? We were looking for a contractor partner. So instead of design bid build, we went through a non-traditional pathway, GCCM, General Contractor Construction Manager, to be a strong partner for us. Many of our supporters live here, work here, and they want to apply their trade knowledge right in the community where they live and where they work. So part of our emphasis is to not only try to make sure local dollars stay local, but we recruit, retain local labor. Throughout the selection process, we hired Skanska. So Cliff will talk a little bit about, from a builder perspective, how we're going to try to maintain that partnership with local businesses and our local community and our local labor workforce.
Yeah, it's a unique opportunity for me. One of the first times I ever presented to a board as a school board. And I believe back then it was Director Hogan who was educating me on how to start a soccer team. So it's ironic 25 years later, and I think 5, 6, 7 of you coach your children, grandchildren. So pretty special moment for me. Now it's a different education. Who are often educating me on how to do capital projects and teaching me the next phase of life. So I appreciate the support of Kim and JC. They've been very helpful to the school district helping us. Okay, when we go on site plan, yeah, you gotta help. Okay, this is what you're gonna do next. And so I love it because they've done the whole count. Skanska, if I'm gonna be honest, we were going into this, we're gonna interview these different committees. They were the largest company. And my, Orient soul said, I don't want a big company because that's not what we want here, and then really understand small town needs. When Skanska came, they came with an entire team. And apparently, they're signatories to 5 different unions. And there's a lot of folks that commute out of Orient and are surrounding these 45 square miles that end up commuting to Seattle and Bellevue and Everett to build. And they've been telling all the people in charge, you get that job. We need that job. So they came with complete support of our community. They talked to us about they're going to track every single worker that comes on that, from every subcontractor to contractor. I said, I want to know everyone that works and lives in our community and our school district. I want to know who's employed on our job. And I want that to be quantified. So they're going to do that for us. They're going to start a passport program where they're going to have a reward system. So like picture a punch card where you got to go twice to Los Pinos, and you got to go once to Airline, you got to once, and they'll have prizes they give out, and they're going to track how much dollars are spent by all the workers coming in here. I'm told by Skanska, at the peak of the job, it'll be between 80 and 100 trade folks that'll be inside of our town, eating lunch, getting coffee, getting, energy drinks or whatever from our community. So it should be a large influx. And that was a very, very important thing to them. And I think of all the people we interviewed and all the companies, they were the only ones that I felt the small town, that they understood what our needs were and how impactful this could be to our community. And even one of their superintendents was an ex-student of Ed's that we talked about back in middle school in his teaching days. There's a lot of connections there locally. So they really blew me away with the local connection and how they feel for Orient community and our surrounding communities in the 45 square miles. So we're really excited to have Skanska on board. Next up, I'm going to have Liz. She's going to kind of take through the project where we're at right now, trying to give you an insider look of both the timeline and what we're building.
I'm Liz, I'm the owner's rep. This is just a diagram of where we are for that.
Closer to the mic.
We're starting with the elementary school, and I'll move on to high school. The elementary school, we just completed schematic design. what we're doing right now, Skanska and our architectural team is pricing that schematic design package. We're gonna start moving into design development, and that process, we're gonna start to submit a permit package to the city at that time. Moving forward into construction documents, that takes us pretty much all the way through our final permit set. We're looking to start construction with Skanska in the spring. So, and then complete the project by 2029, the fall, and occupy, move in furniture. So I wanted to give you just an overall, if there's any questions, we can talk at the end, but I wanted to move in some of the specific parts of that schedule. The high school's trailing a little bit behind, for a couple of reasons. One, we wanted to keep the biggest project of our bond scope of work, the lowest cost. So constructing that large elementary school keeps that for as many dollars as possible to build as quickly as possible. So the high school project is still committed to open prior to 2029. Most likely we'll get that sooner, but it's trailing about a few months behind the schematic design from the elementary school. We have completed our permit application for pre-app with the city. We are working with the city on a couple processes that we're still being a little bit creative on, I would say, as far as the site plan review and SEPA and when's the timing of that. So we met with Kim last week and we adjusted, I would say, our permit application timeline. So we're going to come in sooner than we initially thought and do that during the summer for the permit package for the site review. We're currently talking with the city about a foundation and tile permit package that we would complete, as well as maybe a new permit process for the city that we're asking for. We can dive into more details or ask questions on that later, but that's essentially backing out time for what the contractor needs to be able to keep that project moving after the spring and summer. The building permit process, we're looking to actually start construction erecting steel in the summer next summer. So again, the next slide, this slide talks about specifically backing out time from those milestones. So what I wanted to highlight that we really are breaking ground in March. We're going to be moving dirt, so that site review package and SEPA, we're looking for full completion and the permit issuance by then. I don't know if you wanted to talk about some of that component and the importance of that timeline.
Yeah, so one thing I learned similar to you guys, that the season has a lot to do. So if you don't get things done in summer, similar to capacity issue you're dealing with the wastewater treatment plant, the soils out there are very problematic. So there's about $2 million of soils that need to be taken off and the soil needs to be imported. If we get out of the ground in spring, it's likely that we can reuse soil on there, and maybe for under $500,000, we can use the soil for fill and it'll still be viable. If the rains begin and we don't get out of the ground, we're going to have to export it all, and it'll be multiple $1 million to do that. And as you all know, before I was here, so this is probably 30 years ago, I hear about a transportation building and then tennis courts were supposed to be built. And people still bring up, you never did the transportation building. I was in high school.
Every day till the end of my life.
Right? I don't remember. So it's really important to me, and I want you to know that there's been great flexibility already, and folks are working with us, but we have to deliver this and have to deliver on time. And these timelines are really, really important. So so far the city has been great working with us, meeting whenever if we can meet here, Kim and her team, the JC, they've been great. And I know JC, just last week he got on, I think he had a natural gas leak in his house and he was still on the phone. You gotta get natural gas hooked up. It was on the first. So, but they've been great. So I appreciate all that because it is great. And I know not only will the school never pass a bond again, we've got 2 or 3 coming up, most likely building elementary schools up in the hills. We've got a lot coming. And I know this town, and if we don't do right by them, we go over budget, or we don't do what we say we're gonna do, then they'll never trust us with those dollars again. So I definitely feel that. So these timelines do matter, and we hope to hit them all, and we appreciate the flexibility from the city to help us.
Let's touch on the geotechnical approach. So maybe you've seen a driller over at the elementary school site or even the high school site. We had one round of drill excavation and even potholing, as well as investigation for a pier foundation approach. And what we found for both properties both projects is that for the elementary school, we're going to go with the approach with the aggregate pier. And then that's going to be actually similar to like a raft essentially. And it's going to go wider than the building, about 20 feet. And then the aggregate piers are gonna be a piling system that's why we wanna start the work so early, and like what Cliff had noted, the time of the year is so critical. The high school, as you can see later in the site plan, the high school it's pretty, it doesn't have that space. We have a little bit of constraint, so we're going with a more soil mixture pier system. So I'll move on to high school and just pause for any questions. Great. I'll pass it to Ed and talk about kind of our long-term master plan idea and planning for the bonds.
Tax rates and affordability are very important to the local constituency, and when we had the dream of where we want our facilities to go way back in 2021, we knew it all couldn't be accomplished right out of the gate. Part of our district, as it's growing, we see, when I first became superintendent in 2021, our assessed valuation was about $2.4 billion. We've almost doubled in just the last 5 years. When Cliff and I are meeting with developers, we have still about 5,000 homes coming into the 45 square miles in the next decade. So we see that growth coming. With that brings challenges, but it brings a wonderful opportunity, which is the more the costs escalate, we can divide that by more people and keep those tax rates down. So we do have a phased approach. What we're going to share with you is what's happening in phase one. Why we only talk about phase one, we don't want to confuse the taxpayers of what's included in this bond, but we are thinking that we'll need another bond in the very near term to tackle the high school. If many of you looked at the blogger, you saw, why not high school? Why not high school? There's not enough housing space to do it all at the same time, and there's not enough tax space to do it all at the same time. So we really came to the conclusion we have to do things over a phased approach. This is the current high school site. Cliff and I were principals there for a long time. It has a district office and an elementary school and a high school. And right now, the majority of our high school students are housed in portables. That's going to change when the elementary moves locations. So Matt Carlson, who many of you know personally, have known for years, current principal, he'll take over the entire of that facility, save the rectangle that's the district office. So as we're thinking about where this new facility goes, we're thinking about what makes sense now and what's going to make sense for the next 50 to 100 years. Because you know, many of our buildings have been here as long as many of us have been here. So we haven't made those changes. So part of what we still see is a way to secure it is that frontline buffer. If you think between the Performing Arts Center, the West Wing, and the gymnasium, we think that what we would call is the public edge, where we would see that gated and secure. Right now, we have an active roadway through the middle of campus, 1,400 students moving back and forth, and it's not secure, it's very porous. So we want to tighten that up over time. So after this phase, we still want to maintain that view and the connection. So as we're thinking about where this first site goes, that's part of the idea, which is how do we make it more secure, but hold on to what makes Hording, small town, big view, special. So looking at where that's going to go, we've determined that the best place for this next new wing is right next to the West Wing. So the West Wing is just immediately to the left, and it's sandwiched between that and our current gymnasium facility to the right. That, as we will come back and we'll share future site plans, we think that's going to be the best location at this point in time because we can expand and grow in two different directions in future phased bonds, not in this one. So when we get done with this phase, this is what it might look like. Our 1950s gymnasium that many of you competed in back in the day, it is literally falling apart. We can't refinish that gym floor any further. You see cracks in the standards. We think that's a tear down at the end of this phase, which what we could do if we relocate and move those 6 portables that surround it, open up to more parking. Well, I know many of you here, high school kids are parking all over town. There's a shortage of parking. We know we want solutions to that. So we think at the end of this, the portable solutions that are in our parking lots now go away and that facility comes down. And then we open up more parking space for our students and our faculty and our community as well. This has been a dream of Cliff's. We'll have him talk. Our new career technical education wing. We're really excited that this focuses our kids on careers and trades. Most of our graduates don't move away and stay away. They come back and fight and compete for local jobs. So we've excitedly built some partnerships, which Cliff will talk about, and I'll share a little bit about what's happening in the career tech ed wing.
It's what we heard loud and clear from our constituents. A lot of our students, probably more than, we have a higher average than anyone in the county, and our students go straight from trades. But what you're finding is when you go onto the trades, someone gets a clipboard and someone gets a shovel, right? And you choose that based on what skill sets kids come out with. And how do you talk to kids about welding? And they look at videos about welding and read about welding. If you go onto the job site, you're not likely to get handed the welder, right? You're likely to get handed the broom. So, what we really need is we needed students getting their hands on up-to-date tools, being prepared to go into the workforce, go into trades and be competitive in our region. So with that, we need facilities with present tools, facilities with, up-to-date equipment, in both the sciences and all of our trades. So part of it is we're remodeling the high school and we're gonna, put in their back a metals and wood shop to support our ag mechanics program. We're gonna update our culinary facility because it doesn't have an event team. So literally if you burn bacon, we evacuate the school. There's no event, all you can do is crack the window. So we'll be doing some remodeling over at the high school and then adding this building. What you see here is a culinary lab, STEM lab, which would do science, technology, engineering, mathematics, opening up to a breakout space, some storage, health science lab, which we know is like sports medicine, health and medical careers. Upstairs would be multiple science labs, would be 4 science labs. Our current science labs do not need a full class. Our current science labs don't have enough oxygen. The only way we can meet health code is we had to add a fan to the windows that we turn on while students are present, so there's enough oxygen in the room. So definitely we need a new science lab. So that's what this will be provided upstairs.
Share a little bit about Clover Park Technical College.
Oh yeah, we went to Clover Park Technical College, and what we're finding is there's some very highly competitive jobs for kids that go into Clover Park Technical College. They do something called the mechatronics program, where what we're finding is back when I went to school, you either welded, right, or you learned computers, and those two people didn't play together. But what they're calling now is Industry 2.0, which is they don't want kids who can weld and they don't want kids who can code. They need kids who can run a computer, run a machine virtually and can fix it. So they have these mechanical arms that the kids work on, keep up, oil, check the friction on everything. And they also have virtual machines that are running 5-15 seconds or an hour ahead. And they're adjusting what happens if I do this. And they're fixing the machines virtually ahead of the time. And they know when the machine's about to break. And then they can go in and they can fix the machine and not stop production. Cutting edge stuff, it's amazing. So we went and visited them and said, what do you need our kids to be able to do to come get inside this and get viable jobs? They're starting at $80,000 or $90,000 starting wages. So what they said is they need hands-on machines. They need complex systems, multiple variables, and they need to be able to navigate those. They don't care if it's a slot car working with AI. They don't care if it's a gyroscopic, they showed us a gyroscopic deck for like an oil rig that was being welded, but they had to work on the computer side of the gyroscope as well as the welding side. So that's what we're kind of picturing inside this space to our open breakout space, is the kids are working on big, real world important projects so they can see that this matters going on beyond high school, instead of just watching a video on mobile. So we're really excited about this facility. Next up, Oriental Elementary School, and I give that over to Liz, and she's kind of going to walk you through what we're thinking about the elementary school.
As far as the bond, well, first of all, orient us on the site. So to the right of the site is White Hawk intersection or the new roundabout. And then to the left of the site is the new bridge that the city supported. So as you enter, there's 2 accesses, one from the north of Daffodil, which is kind of the top part of the field, and then on the south side off of White Hawk. So part of the bond scope of work was a commitment to a new elementary school for 600 students, and also included a field. We want to make sure that we highlight that it was really important to the district to have a multi-use field and also a community field, but also a field large enough for our high school events as well. So that's scoped enlarged a little bit from our initial scope. So the field that you see here is a high school football field.
It was so close to full size. These accounts would take just make full size, so we did.
It's not showing up a little, you can't see as much on your slide, but so that gives a detail about the actual property. To the south is a ditch that we're going to be filling in, and then there's some other supporting wetlands that we're going to be mitigating as well. We haven't started that process with the city yet, and we're anxious to do so. We're wrapping up both a traffic study and as well our wetland study. So a lot of our due diligence investigation has been still ongoing for the last few months. We want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence as accurately as possible. And we wanted to also survey the bridge because it was newly completed, and that access to the left of the page, that bridge connection for kids walking was really important. So that survey information we had just gotten. So I don't have a highlight of that, but we're going to come to the city with an update too, as well as that bridge connection. Yes, go ahead.
To share. Our original Citizens Facility Advisory Committee was really dreaming, and part of Mayor Pinner was involved in this conversation at the time. How do we bring people in? How do we connect on the outskirts? And when Cliff and I were doing our research, none of these large neighborhoods are putting in a single soccer field, no ball fields, no places to recreate. So part of the dream in that Citizens Committee was, can we create a space where they can come here? So the 45 miles is coming here into Orion for weekend tournaments and places to recreate, and that brings tax dollars and revenue expenditures for local business, that sort of thing. So when we're looking at the site, not only that field now with the bridge for kids creates easy, safe access for our middle schoolers to this site, our high schoolers will have connectivity, safe routes they can walk across. When we're looking at space in the interior, future Citizens Facility Committee will help design what goes in that middle space. But we've kind of mapped it out, and there's room for tennis courts, soccer, baseball, fast pitch, you name it. So we're thinking really a place where the community, not only just the local, but the surrounding can come and recreate locally. So part of that will be visioned out as we complete this and think about what's next. That's some of what we're excited about, the what's next conversation. How do we evolve for the future to support the surrounding areas?
Great. You don't want to get too much into the floor plan. However, we have been similar to what Cliff had done before, outreaching to teachers, students for input. Safety and security is a primary goal. Although we're really heavily supporting the community in athletics and access, we want to make sure that our school is super safe. So we are just starting to start that conversations as well as about fencing and things like that to ensure that access is single point so that people know where they're coming and going. This is the second floor. One other priority that the district made was to make sure that this gym was a full-size gym as well. So we added some square footage from what the bond original commitment was for a gym. So this is a larger gym than a typical elementary school for 600 kids. The main entry is to the left, and the yellow section is circulation. The orangey color is that gym space. To the left is that blue is the cafeteria and common space, and that opens up to the playground to the north. So it's really the visibility is really important, not only for administrators to see who's coming into the school. So across from the gym is that admin core, which is kind of a pinkish color. That admin core, you can see it out, and then also look in for that main corridor yellow space. As well as just as important as that beautiful view, right? So to the right of the page is the mountain view. And so the architects did a great job, I think, to create this star footprint, if you will, that really kind of hugs and focuses on that mountain view. One component that I think was interesting, I was on the phone with the contractor on the way down here, and he's like, this is actually laid out to sequence very well. So we talked briefly about schedule. We didn't dive into the construction schedule, but we saw how quickly they're moving forward. So with an April start, moving dirt, they want to go into underground pilings right away after a month, and then even work on vertical steel, flying steel by the time it's end of July. So when I talked to Skanska, they were just like the star shape of the footprint lends itself very well for sequencing, because they will, start in one zone of the star and then move quickly, and then they'll already start that next phase on that other part of the star. So it just moves really quickly. Next slide. We definitely are aware of your design review guidelines. I think the mayor has had a couple outreach meetings that we've done with our architects to talk about materials and form. Our priority definitely for the community is making sure that this is a timeless building, that we can meet within your general outlined criteria, as well as the suggested materials. We want to have materials that are durable and maintenance free. So one component that we might see a lot of wood character in the building. In the imagery, we're talking about having some kind of siding that maybe mimics wood to make sure that we can have a durable building. We haven't decided on any components of materials at this point yet, but I wanted to just still send some images to you so you can get a sense of what we're looking at. Some of these design ideas in no particular order. We are working with architects right now, and we're going to come back to you with further development. That's the view. This is that entry canopy that you saw at the admin, kind of luring, visitors, parents, and kids in. This kind of taking a step back in that drop-off parking lot. So this is still the entry. When I noted that area on the left, that's the start of the playground space, and that's that commons cafeteria space. And then the brick on that left side would be the gymnasium. This is just another view of that entry space with another way to look at it from an architectural standpoint. And again, these are just design concepts and ideas. Go quickly, miss them out. Did I miss anything? You want to add in? Maybe Director?
I can answer any questions you have about where we're at thus far in the process.
What is the name of the architect he chose?
NAC Architecture, NAC.
NAC, okay.
NAC.
And Skanska is the contractor?
Skanska is our general contractor.
Okay, and you are the owner's rep, correct? Okay, what outfit are you with? What's the name of your company?
Alliance Construction Management.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Independent owner. Part of our commitment is not only to support local, but we want at least 10% of that project to go to minority women-owned business, so it's another.
Okay.
Tracking as
All
well.
right.
So part of how we creatively package and work with Skanska is to make sure that it's attainable for our local contractors to
Mhm.
access some of the projects that'll be released eventually.
How involved are the school board members in all of this?
We have two of our members that are members of the Bond Oversight Committee, so they're writing the journey every step along the way. And then our three presenters, our owner's rep, architect, and builder, share every month progress updates to the board of directors. So they'll be informed and included all the way to the end.
No, thank you.
Well,
Councilmember Hogan.
Thanks. I didn't recognize that old guy over there. Good thing we didn't vote no on your hire, Chris. Thank you very much. Great to see somebody evolve through the district. So you said about removing fill. Is that off the Gratzer property that was filled in decades ago? You got to remove that stuff.
Okay, that has to be screened off, and then, you gotta dig down.
Right.
Right, because we have to do a bunch of containment of the surface water underneath. Well, in an ideal world, we use that same material to put it back in, but if we put it out and the rains start, that becomes garbage, it's gotta go away. You probably know more about this than I do, but yeah, that's helpful, that our soils are on the verge of being useful, and if they stay dry, they'll be useful, but if rains start to come, we're gonna have to export them.
Okay.
So
Is the district looking at getting off the valley floor?
we have a 20-acre parcel that we expect to be able to receive from the Brookfield developer in the Tahali neighborhood. So a future third elementary school will be off the valley floor. We have really worked on both ends to try to secure additional property. We are unable to not only convince Pierce County to provide for adequate school sites and when they go to plat development, but we're unable to secure it through the urban growth management property to the south. That may change with what Bethel was able to achieve recently. So Cliff and I are looking, can we look at that now outside of the urban growth, but we weren't able to find anything within. But we will anticipate getting a 20-acre parcel next year, and probably a 30-acre parcel as they move to the south. In the early 2030s, we think a 30-acre parcel will become available, a potential secondary middle school site. So absolutely.
Great.
the irony is all this development was grandfathered in before that Growth Management Act. So although they can put in a Daybreak, for example, the property across the street, we would love to build there, but they said you can't, that's in the rural area, but they just put 500 homes across the street. So that property across would be perfect for a school. Fortunately, our city does allow us to build a school. That's why we were forced to take really the only buildable place left in the city of Boarding. So if not for the city, we wouldn't have had a buildable place at all.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so it's great to see if we're gonna get up to Tahali because I don't get along with the summer school district at all. Goes back about 15 years.
As former high school principals, we concur.
That's great. Yeah, they headhunted us for property up there. So, what about food service? Are you guys doing central kitchen or what are you doing?
Not all of our facilities are able to operate in that capacity. 2 are warming kitchens and the others are able to serve. We think we'll be able to continue to serve primarily out of our Warden Middle School site. But if we get to the point where we're 5,000 children, 4,500, we'll outgrow that kitchen as well. So we think the future Performing Arts Center common space, which will be phase 2 high school, we'll eye that for our new central kitchen facility, because we know nothing we have in inventory today is adequate.
Thank
Elementary schools were making a hybrid kitchen so they can produce food there.
Oh, okay, yeah, great. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
In your plan, you had pilings that you were putting in? Are you drilling those or are you just pounding those into the ground, do you know? Because we had some history of some drilling pilings here in Ording.
I've heard.
Yeah, the state information, we had a conversation with Big Brothers, we learned a lot from some of the issues there, so we will not use the similar pilots. You guys use that.
Okay, good.
They provided us with all of the information, geotech information they had, which really helped us out.
Can I say one more thing? Yeah, Ptarmigan Ridge. We bought used pilings and I don't know, there was like 250 of them we put in there. It was unbelievable. Yeah, used piling, it was whatever, but it was still a headache.
Yeah, with that pole system, that has now moved to 9-foot pilings, right? I believe we were 50 or 60. So we're looking at what's the small school.
The elementary is just an aggregate, here, so it's like again, like that raft. And they're often it's aggregate, so it's essentially, it's my understanding, the contractor laid down, but they're pounding them in and they spread out the friction. So obviously it's to provide stability and no settlement.
City let us know once they hit 50 feet, things got wild, so make sure we're ready.
Any other questions?
What is with the backfeed here? Good choice. Skanska done a lot of work with them. They were bought out by a worldwide corporation and they still stay true to our.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I guess now we can go to Ording Business Association.
Here, I don't know what we need to do. I was told to show up, so here I am. Is there anything in particular?
I think Kim was looking for some support on talking about the parking with the business was gonna support you.
I'm kind of out of that loop. I know that you were over there the other day. We talked about the different parking arrangements that were coming about. Everybody that was there seemed to be happy with the way it was going. I mean, obviously, we're getting more parking available. Not more parking available, but less restrictions to say. I mean, that's definitely moving forward. There was lots of conversation after that meeting that we were all at that was positive, so everybody was looking forward to that. I think the restrictions being lifted is good for everybody.
Just on the way down here, I noticed an area that might be something to look at for parking is in front of the high school. I know it's lawn now and it's kind of part of the small town look, but maybe diagonal parking spots in front of the school where the lawn's at, maybe, I don't know how many, 20, 30. Just a thought.
Well, the parking stalls are not necessarily my scenario.
Yeah. I just thought that Kim said you were gonna talk about how you were in favor of what she was presenting.
Well, I think we are. I mean, anytime that we can get less restrictions on the new businesses that are coming in, that was always the issue. Even when we moved in over there on Van Scoik right there, it was a big issue, just especially right there on that stretch with the park. There were so many restrictions on when you could park at the park and who could park at the park, and none of the businesses could utilize it during the day. So easing that up and easing up on how many spaces you have to open up the new business, which I think is what we touched on at that meeting, has been great. Everybody's looking forward to that. I don't know, of any of the businesses right now that are having an issue getting permits or anything to that nature right now, but that has been the problem up until now. So if we can continue down that path, I think that that's a big improvement.
It's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go into staff reports. I see Michelle came in. I was going to move you up to the first so you could go after you report out if you wanted to.
Thanks for calling me up. I'm just intrigued at everything that's being discussed. I'm a little bit of a part of the committee for building the new school, so I'm really excited, just from a personal side of things for that, so love to hear it. But great, I'll give us a Parks and Rec update. We began our hiring process for our temporary staffing for our summer day camp program. This year, we expect to hire up to 3 camp counselors, as well as 1 lead camp counselor who will serve as the key supervisor for that program. And just a reminder, the day camp program, we always do it the first 2 weeks in August, so it'll be the 3rd through the 7th and the 10th through the 14th this year. On another note regarding my professional training, I have applied to take the Certified Parks and Recreation Professional exam, which I'm excited and nervous about. But it's another step further in kind of furthering my education and my credentials as a Parks and Recreation Professional. So excited about that. And actually just came from my graduation ceremony for the risk management leadership training I just completed. Got a lot of great information from that training, and I really look forward to connecting with staff and mayor and possibly the council to talk about leadership strategies, risk management going forward, so we can make sure that everyone's on the same page regarding risk and kind of taking proactive approaches to that and proactive approaches to leadership within the city. Lastly, planning's underway for our annual 4th of July festival, and the city is proud to once again team up with the Oregon Valley Farmers Market to host a fun, community-centered celebration. This year's event carries a little bit of extra meaning as Oregon joins Washington State's America's 250th initiative, which is a part of the national commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So with that, becoming an official partner in that initiative, we've got some special elements that will feature at the 4th of July event. And we also are featured on some national websites for our 4th of July festival. We're considered one of the, I think it's called America's Block Party. So we're on that list of one of the cities in all of America who's having a big celebration, celebrating America's 250th birthday. So I'm excited about that and look forward to a fun event for everyone. Love to take any questions if you have any. Otherwise, thank you.
Any returning council members? Council members. Counselors for your program, are they coming back or?
You have back, so I'm definitely excited to utilize them once again in further the training. Unfortunately, our lead camp counselor who we've had for the past 3 summers is moving, so we are replacing that position. But I've got a couple of promising candidates, and I'm excited to get somebody new in the mix and provide a good program.
Thank you, Michelle.
Anybody else? Thank you, Michelle. JC, you're up next.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Parish Council. Brief update on all the projects that Parametrics is assisting the city with, and if you have any questions, pretty casual, so feel free to interrupt me or follow up with questions, whatever suits you. So starting with the most visible ones, first of all, Kansas Street reconstruction. Scott Spees from Parametrics is on site doing observation, assisting the city with that, so you'll probably see a parametrics vest out there a little bit more, filling some gaps on observation right now. The contractor is continuing to install the water main, and with that, they're starting to cut over some of the water services from the old water main to the new. So that's currently what they're doing, working through all the existing utilities that you can imagine are on a busy road like that. But we've got a good working relationship with obviously the state and our contractors, that we're working through that, as well as private utility partners out there, PSC, Comcast, et cetera. The bridge, as you probably see, the handrail's starting to go up, so it's starting to look like a finished bridge product. They're continuing to sack and patch and apply that pigmented sealer, so you probably see on each side the bridges and or the stairs and ramps have the sealer. The main span does not yet, so you'll see the difference in finish there. They're continuing with submittals of the railings, so we're working through review of those submittals. What they do is they submit a shop drawing. We make sure it's consistent with plans and specifications, then it goes to fabrication. So main span, they're installing that right now, and they're working on the east and west side fabrication and submittal process. So those will be going up shortly. They're also doing site restoration. So right now they're focusing on the school district property right there at the corner where they had a lot of their equipment and various things laid down area for materials, etc. Radio Meadows Phase 2, the plat development, they're working through some outstanding punch list items in preparation for the final plat. I'm gonna be out there tomorrow walking the new pickleball court with them, just making sure it meets the city's expectations for finish and quality before they put the final surfacing on that one. So White Hawk Boulevard extension, we've received comments from Public Works since the last time that I reported out to you. We've addressed those on the drawings, and we're moving forward with the environmental permitting for the project itself, as well as coordination with our submittals to WashDOT for the roundabout and channelization changes on SR 162. The WashDOT Fish Passage water line replacement project. So on the way to South Prairie, Orville Road roundabout, and the 2 Fish Passage culverts or bridges that will be installed. We're nearing final design on the city's water line that'll be hung on those new bridges. Utility coordination is kind of the common theme right now. Private utilities have come in, done their designs kind of late in the process, but we're making sure there's not any conflicts there. WashDOT's in the same position that we are, getting this late information from the utility partners, making sure there's not conflicts with their design and just that coordination aspect before they go out to bid. Water system plan, met with the city administrator and mayor yesterday, and we went line by line on the CIP, looking at your capital outlay through 2045 on that, and we'll be making some slight tweaks and modifications to that based on our conversation, and that conversation is ongoing as it gets input into your rate study. Stormwater plan, similar process. We submitted a CIP to the city. I believe we'll be following up with the mayor and city administrator to talk through those projects in detail that are a result of your stormwater planning activity. Also, we're working on ordering design standards, getting close to a submittal to the city for review on that. Those are the standard details and specifications that we follow for projects in the city, both public works projects as well as your development projects as they move forward. Making sure things are consistent on all your utilities and roads, pedestrian improvements, et cetera, through the city. Last one is the charter park. So we've got out and done our survey on that, and we're moving forward in design, preliminary layout on that one. So it's looking closer to Michelle, administrator within. Otherwise, developments, partnership with school district as they into detail on that, and some smaller short class and things like that are coming through right now. Any other capital projects, Mark will provide detail on this. Have to answer any questions.
I see here in the project management public works it mentioned the charter park restrooms that was partially built. Where are we at there?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
We put it out for bid and got 0 bids. We had 5 contractors come out and look, and not one of them bid the project. So we're going to go back over our bid documents, see if there's anything we could change, try to find out what went wrong, and we're going to go back out for bid.
That's for the parks?
No, it
Charter Park restroom,
was built by the National
right?
Guard.
It was not finished.
They just did the shell. CMU, wasn't it?
CM did. Factor, but they delivered it.
Okay, so it's still, it turned into a headache then. Thank you.
How did the deed transfer go on the property out there? Or has it been done yet?
Well, so we relinquished it and then the new easement, you're talking about the development.
Right,
Rain Meadows.
where there was a mistake on who owned the property?
Well, it wasn't really a mistake. It was what we did. We were relinquishing an old pipe that was no longer needed.
Right, that was the one thing, storm,
Storm, yes.
storm. I'm talking about,
Right, Pierce County.
Yeah.
property.
yeah, we had the Pierce County property, which we assume we owned. So I know we had moved to get something done on that, and I was just wondering where
Yeah,
that.
so we're still a few months away from they've given us the lease, and we're probably a few months away from them transferring ownership to us. It's getting there.
So it's not gonna hold anything up to the
Nope.
charter?
Nope. RCO's fine with us leasing it for now.
I've got a question.
Councilmember Torres.
Is there any unforeseeable change orders on the Kansas Street project?
Marvin's gonna provide updates on those.
Sure, I could, yeah, there are going to be some. None have come yet, but they're in process. They ran into a 20-foot by 20-foot rock. That's probably going to cost us a bit. One of the things in these negotiations over change orders gets pretty dicey, pretty tough. I've watched, the mayor and I were in all those meetings, and we've watched parametrics do a really good job of holding them back and saying no initially. Are they, what they're asking for, is it something in the bid document that really wasn't in the bid document? Or is it there? We have things called incidentals. And sometimes what we call an incidental, they want to call a change order. So these are tough negotiations that we're having with them. We know they're coming. We know they've been slowed up by a lot of the pipes in the ground that we didn't even know were there. They were just left there from previous development. And we've just had some pieces that they're gonna come. But we still think we're gonna stay within the contingency that was allowed for this project.
Thank you.
Instead of, a lot of unknown utilities, they just are unmarked, and so whether they actually impact the contractor is the question that we need to be asking is, they're gonna hit those and they're gonna throw their hands up and say, we're delayed, but were you really delayed, and what was the true impact of that delay, and was it, just time? Did you actually have a financial impact and, need additional materials or something, labor associated with it? So that's where we get into the conversation with them on those things.
All right.
Sometimes we just chalk it up as move on, and it wasn't the impact, the critical time for impact.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you have a question?
I thought I was the public works guy that was here. He said,
Glenn's back there.
oh, they said that the bathrooms were just about operational. They're just keeping them closed because the development hasn't opened yet.
The bathroom fell short of being complete, and then our staff was gonna try to complete the work, save money.
Right.
We found out that we still didn't have money to do this, so we decided we're gonna try to take it off the bid. Um, Unfortunately, the bid date was due the 18th, and that morning we had no bids, so we're gonna try to look at the process again. I'm actually gonna talk to one of the contractors and see what it was that made them not decide to get it and try to go that route
Right.
soon.
Who's the other guy that was sitting with you that talked? I thought he said that the fixtures and stuff were all in the bathroom already. They're not in there. And it's not hooked up yet to the sewer line.
Fixture, the completion of the restroom is not completed.
Okay.
We have water hooked up, we have sewer hooked up. We just don't have the finish on.
I go. So what's the estimate on, as far as you're concerned, what's the estimate?
We've only had, I call it sort of a bid from a developer there, the builder at Rainer Meadows. He bid it at $54,000 and we said, no, thanks.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
we don't have a true estimate of what we think. That we thought it'd probably be 20 to 30,000. That's what we've been thinking.
Well, the process we had on this is we went through the small works list and we put it out there with with just bid items with unknown cost. And what we're gonna do is the low bidder that come in, that's what we're gonna go for. In hopes
Right.
that we can finance that.
Well, I just wondered why, you mentioned that you looked at doing it, the city employees doing it, and it came out, it was gonna be too much. So obviously you had some idea what it was gonna cost to finish it up.
Initially, I believe, Tammy, we had a, $25,000 in the budget to do it, left over, and then, we just couldn't, the staffing couldn't do it at the time. We just didn't have, the manpower or the time to do it completed. And after looking at further, the details to complete it, we found out that there was still more material that we had to purchase. So we kind of just put everything on hold until we can get a final number before we even start the next story. I was just informed, we'll just put it on hold and then we'll put it up for bid.
So do we have a listing of materials?
We do have materials, static stock for going over at the shop.
Oh, you've already got the
We
materials.
got the materials. The only thing that's missing is the finished product siding, lap siding. That's all we need to purchase.
Kind of siding was it? Was it cement board?
Yeah.
Wow, they didn't even
We have
finish
the
that.
fixtures, we have the toiletry, we have furry strips, we have 9%, I say 95% of the product stored in the office.
So what you're looking at is labor then. $50,000 for labor?
Yeah, that's what
that's.
balance.
One of the things we think
So-
is turning these guys off is the core that put the building up made the floors so that they didn't flow toward the drain. So you've got to sand that cement out. We think that's been a big turnoff in this thing. It's a pretty big job. So that everything goes to the drain in each of the bathrooms and the other room.
Okay, thank you.
Annex.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Police chief.
Thank you, Captain. No, it's not. Good evening, council. Our regional Lahar evacuation drill was successfully conducted on April 23rd. This year's exercise presented some unique operational challenges due to the ongoing traffic restrictions on Kansas Street Southwest. The police department was assisted by the Public Works Department and Washington State Department of Transportation with traffic control and equipment and staffing are affected intersections. The event concluded without any student or staff injuries, which is always a plus. And feedback received from our partner agencies was very positive. Following the evacuation drill, there was a kind of a unique opportunity to attend a USGS presentation at the Oregon Middle School, which is on the 25th. And that that provided a unique educational experience for the students that was directly related to our community here and our unique evacuation challenges. So we wanted to extend our appreciation to all of the staff, the volunteers, and our agencies who contributed to the overall success of the evacuation drill. And again, you know, our job is to keep the students safe and to take up a supporting role for the school district to make sure that these kids can get out in a timely manner. So we wanted to thank everybody for helping us out with that. Our next item is our automated school zone enforcement camera program became operational on April 27th. As a reminder, the cameras enforce speeding violations in the 1000 block of Washington Avenue North only during school zone hours when those warning beacons are flashing. The program is currently within the initial warning period, during which violators will receive a warning notice and no monetary penalties will be assessed. The warning period is scheduled to conclude on May 27th, and at which time those warning notices will be replaced by fines to those folks. As of the 13th of May, only after about 11 days of operation, we had roughly 2,200 violations at that time and those have been processed and warnings have been sent out. So quite a few folks have already received those. To include potentially some city staff who have also gotten some warnings to slow down, and others. So it's just a reminder, those are out there, they're live and they're working, and they will be on the 27th of this month.
We have the highest.
Speed through there yet?
We do, I can actually print out a list, the highest speeds, they were in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, so, and it'll also give us just statistics for off hours, so when the cameras are not actually, if violators, they're still tracking the vehicles that come through at speeds, which is great, so we can take a look at that data, just to see what's happening after hours. But they even when the school beacons are flashing, there were a few cars that were in the 60s range.
Where's the actual zone start and end?
It's
Camera zone?
The camera zone it starts just north of Laney Boulevard and it ends just south of Laney Boulevard. So between Lane and just before the Rocky Road is where it ends. So
Okay.
it depends on which direction you're heading. If you're heading north or out of town.
If we're heading out of town, it starts where that flashing light's at?
If you're headed out of town, it starts pretty much right just at Rocky Road, just after Rocky Road.
After the new.
And then it ends past just on the other side of Lane Boulevard.
Okay, so it's nothing in town.
No, it's just the only zone is just the north end of town.
But that is town.
It's just north of the downtown.
So I drive through there all the time. I'm missing something. Is there not? Is it? I haven't got a notice yet, but is there signage? Is there a lack of signage that says cameras start here?
You're on.
Yeah, you should see the beacons, the school zone beacons flashing, and then there's some additional new signage that was installed that says school zone photo enforced. Those were new, the fluorescent green, yellow color.
So it's nothing in town, it's just out of town?
It's
That's right for a Texas station, and you just by Texas, light that flashes. You go underneath the bridge. Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
But the school zone is two different spots, but they're only focusing on two cameras, right? We only purchased two cameras.
One school zone, two cameras, one for each direction.
So one's at Rocky Road and then beyond Rocky Road going out of town. The next road, the next light.
There's one school zone that's currently being monitored, and that is on the north end of town between Rocky Road and Lane.
Okay.
So I got a question. So, yeah, so when you hit the bridge, you gotta be doing 20, pretty much, right? You're right.
No, sir. This is where you have to actually be you have to be at or past the beacons in order for it to first detect your speed.
Yeah, my wife got one of those warnings, bless her heart. So. But she's you know, we've been looking for the piebald deers every time we go out of town. We're always looking to the right. And she's got a habit of looking for those deer on the right side of the field, you know, and so she got one of those and I said, sweetheart, you just have to forget looking for the deer. And just remember, before you hit the bridge, you better be doing 20. So,
We recently out over 2,000, which is what.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we'd much rather send out a warning now than.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, exactly.
That might be a bad excuse though, because you're past where the deer are.
No, the deer are right there, right behind the school. They're right there
In the
by
field?
Inkfers.
Yeah, but the cameras are
Yeah.
clear out there, so
Yeah.
it's not looking for deer. Yeah.
Council member,
So I guess my whole question is, the cameras are between the bridge and that next intersection, correct? Okay.
Just before.
And-
Faces the weekend and that one was traveling, so when cars get to the weekend sign.
All this time, I thought the cameras were gonna be at this first flashing light before you get to the corner where two people have been killed.
At school zone, initially there was we were looking at putting one there as well, but we were advised by some folks after doing a traffic study that if we just focus on the north side, it would actually potentially reduce speed
Yeah.
so much in the south that we
Yeah.
would need to put a second one there. So we can explore putting another one there later if the need is there in the future, but we believe that the effectiveness of this first one will cause traffic to slow down everywhere in town, which is the desired effect.
Okay,
Any other questions on the school zone before we move on?
It's the crosswalk.
At the other end?
There's
okay, continue, chief, thank you.
This board recently received, word back from the Criminal Justice Training Center regarding our grant application. So they've identified some corrections that need to be made to our application. And those we will have corrected and resubmitted to them before the cutoff date, which is only June 20th, on or about there. And those were not anything major that we needed to correct. There were some minor corrections with some miswording in some of the policy and the form that needed to be updated. Our East Pierce Interlocal Coalition for Emergency Management, which is our EPIC partnership. In partnership with the police department, recently requested and received a $1,500 reimbursement from South Sound 911 for our previous purchase of Genesis Public Alert and Warning software, which we acquired in late 2025. Reimbursement for this purchase was requested because the service directly supports emergency communication capabilities, benefiting multiple jurisdictions beyond just the city of Boarding. Genesis platform replaced that former software that we had, which was called ProRed, and that was following a pretty significant security breach that vendor had. We've been very happy with the software. We've used it quite a bit up to this point already. That's the software that we use when you get those annoying phone calls from me that remind you that the roads are going to be closed for law drills and rates and things like that. We actually just used it this last weekend for an alert that we sent out regarding a storm that's lightning strikes up near Village Green. And so it's been working very well for us. But again, this was a purchase we made in late 25. We got the money back with Sound. We request that each year for reimbursement, and it was granted this year. Moving on from that, we received notice from South Sound 911 that we're going to receive about $45,000 in unused public safety communications sales tax revenue that was collected and reserved for a regional radio system upgrade project that ultimately just didn't move forward. The return funds are expected to be received later this month, and an agenda bill item is going to be actually
proposed tonight, by me later this evening. Regarding that item. And keeping on the topic of getting reimbursed, the Epic Emergency Management Coalition Planning Team recently submitted a state emergency management grant application for equipment that we identified during our 2025 December flood as being critical. We basically asked, and were successfully awarded for the purchase of an automated sandbag machine, a portable roadside message reader board, and an additional cache of radios for emergency management center deployments. All of this equipment benefits all of the Epic jurisdictions that are partner agencies. And then the grant application and documentation and compliance portion is going to be handled by all of it. So this essentially was just kind of a pin for us. We have now more equipment that we can use during storms. It's shared amongst the cities, but it is available to us if we need that. And that, no change orders from the police department. That's
Any questions for the chief?
Not till later.
Councilmember Reed?
When you talked about the Lahar evacuation, were you able to get the students out quick enough, in your opinion, to?
About what time the school district? The school district may, but they did really well this year. So we were able to watch the progress via the drone feed from the ESC and Puyallup. And in about, I think it was about 35 minutes or so, all of the students were at the bottom by the soldiers home already. And so they only had that little portion to go just up the hill a little bit farther than that. So it was very well paced.
What's the estimated time that we are supposed to have?
So just a little bit under an hour from when an event starts.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Tracy?
A while back, I think we passed to get a fingerprint machine.
Yes.
I think we got it. Is that doing what it's supposed to do? I mean, at the time you were saying that it was hard to process some of the things.
It is. We obtained it. It's been installed. We've got training on it, and we now use it for fingerprinting new hire employees as well as all of our arrests to be in compliance with the law.
Right. Good. So,
Anything else for the chief? I'm going to take a 5-minute environmental break.
I'll ask them, where was the city inspector when they were building that? I mean, that's a pretty major thing to not have to do.
Here's the deal. It happens all the time. I've been on construction with people
I know.
for years.
That-
And
but that-
they never, when there's a floor drain,
They never look at that.
they always grade it straight to it. They never slope it. And I put it down half inch below finish. Oh, I know
Yeah.
it. And these concrete finishers, they just go right up to it. It just gets me so upset.
So then it has
for
to ground
years.
down.
Yeah.
How much
And
does
they
it?
don't,
get
they
ground
don't.
down?
I gotta be right there with the concrete finishers telling me, you grade that, you grade to my floor drain.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
What do they
wouldn't
do?
it.
Grade to it and then it drops down, then the floor drains that far down. So nothing slopes to it. It's just flat floor.
It's just,
And then you get to the drain and it's down
frustrating.
a half an inch.
It's frustrating.
Oh,
It
yeah.
happens every time in every job.
How much it
Every time I
costs,
have-
how much it costs to grind that down?
We're fine.
I don't know how much it's gonna cost to grind it down, but I'm sure it's gonna be, it's time, a lot of time to do that, so I don't know.
Why?
I don't think it's a big issue.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a big issue that you have to grind it down.
right.
Just leave it alone. I mean, if there's a flood and there's concrete, it's gonna go in the drain, even if it's,
So,
you know
so
what I'm
what's
saying?
the issue? That's what we need to ask Mark.
Yeah,
Hey, Mark,
so,
so if there's no slope to those drains, what, Ed and I are just sitting here talking about, what's what's the reason to actually make a slope to it? I mean, I know what the reasoning is,
Right.
but why,
I just think
what's the
it is-
importance of doing
They
that?
don't have to finish. Still get finish.
Mhm.
I think they-
That's just a ceiling. You're
Yeah,
just gonna seal the
Yeah,
concrete.
that's right. They're gonna put a plan. Kind of, they're finished.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the ceiling.
So the key is, ask them, myself, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
And,
I was just
I
telling
know they
Bill.
go in there and spray the hoses. You wanna get in and get out.
Right.
Waters.
It's gonna
Yeah,
spend
a little bit of water.
by a squeegee.
Yeah.
The floor squeegee.
Yeah.
What's coming down, we're gonna have to, if we can't get bids because of that part of the project.
Well, I mean, I might be misunderstanding it. He said you've got everything. I assume that's sinks, toilets,
So, yeah, we got the sinks, toilets.
the thing on the outside. So the main
Yeah, there.
thing that's holding it up is the grinding of the floor.
We think. Otherwise, no one can hold this, what they go to bid.
But it,
Cause it does.
but it's gotta be us that's going to, when we send a bid out, this is what's gotta be
Oh,
done.
yeah, we've said that.
Okay,
When they keep
even
it
though we
stocked.
have all the stuff.
Yeah.
$50,000.
So is that something?
That's what,
Yeah, right, yeah.
Shell build it.
They didn't wanna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they just make a whole lot. You know, we got money from, when we decided not to do the, movement of the trail.
Right.
They left 90,000.
Right.
Out.
Well, there's 25 in the budget right now, right? Or is that, was that used to buy all the stuff?
That's part of the problem here. There are a lot of problems, just get to these, as you guys.
Oh, well, hey, imagine that.
I just met about resistance. I know the guys will. They get right time.
Right.
Wow. Man, that's what I said, they were going off a bit. Yeah, got some money.
What about volunteers?
Yeah. How about turning it over to the Lions Club?
Of course, that's part.
And it all helps. You and I can do it.
Finding somebody.
Down.
Oh, right, but I mean to finish.
You're right, we probably got some builders. You know, this would be a thing.
Yeah, well, you've got enough volunteers right here on this electrician, plumber.
Let me ask, see, you know, now that we've gone up a bid, and give me bids. Can we put this out?
I guarantee you, the electrician, plumber, Dale, me, we'll go there.
Play.
So we can get the project done.
That's why they didn't fill some of that river. But,
Yeah, well, that's
you know,
all
when you're
fixable
trying to
stuff.
Screw stuff into.
Yeah.
the reconcile.
Is there a chance we could go down and look at it?
Yeah, just let me know when you want to come. up
If,
with a key.
okay. I would like to go take a look at it. I really would. And I'm sure Ed, that bathroom.
We've also got building the vault outside of the transformer that PSC is making us put in here. So that's part of the bid. That might be true.
Right. It's an underground vault.
You will, where it comes to the surface.
Right, right. That's what I mean. Yeah. Concrete vault. Can't be that big a vault.
It's not.
It's just digging it and
Split the bid in two.
That's possibility.
do pieces.
Glenn and I were talking about too, is if there's one thing that's bugging people, let's make it a bid.
Mhm. Yeah, I would like, and I'm sure Ed and probably Dale too. And if John was here, but he's not, maybe next week sometime. If I can, I mean, we're all retired anyway, so we can get here just about any time. I would like to take a look. I'm sure we could find,
Tell me when you want to come.
okay.
I'll make you do that.
You just got volunteered.
I'm not just retired.
Yeah, I did. We did a few weeks ago, but I'm making it official. They got all the stuff. I mean, there's a few little things, but it's all fixable. That was my, and that's why they said no.
I sort of rolled my eye. Like he said, you don't really want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they go with it, okay, I'll do it. We're gonna make lots of money on it. Yeah, no, we need to.
Maybe go down, JC, walk through it. The reason was because I want to create scare in the community that are drinking water is unsafe or.
Oh, right.
Start talking about things. That's something we did. Yeah, yeah. So.
Hey, Mark said give him a call and he'll unlock it so we can take a look at what's there.
Okay.
So maybe next week.
Yeah,
Sometime.
let's do it.
We'll
go get the toilet. I want to install the toilets.
Well, it's toilets. I don't,
You're-
probably lights and stuff. So what?
I know.
That's all doable stuff.
We can do it.
Yeah.
If we can't do it, it can't be
Get
done.
Dale down here, you,
Yeah.
if John's here, we get
Right.
John.
Yeah, we'll do it in no time. Save the
Yeah.
city that kind of money.
Oh, yes. They have
Yeah.
all the stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
I'm all
so
for it.
he said, I'll get with you and we'll make
Okay.
a phone call to him. He'll go take us down there, or we can go down and take a look.
Okay, all right. Let's get her done.
50-some thousand dollars.
I know. No, no, thank you.
That's one of those bids that
Right.
you put it out there and if they say yes, oh, okay.
Yes, God, no, I got the job. How come this, how do you avoid from keep this keep shutting down?
Well,
How do you
there's
do
a
that?
place in there where you can make it so it'll stay open longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to,
It's in your settings.
okay. I'll have to, this is just,
Shauna or Tammy might be able to.
okay.
Isn't there a
How do you-
place in here? that
How do you
can-
keep this from, it shuts down so quick?
Yeah, isn't there a place, this is your computer now. Somewhere in here that you can make that screen stay light longer. You know how it disappears?
How do you do that? I don't know how to do it.
Settings, okay.
Can you do it for me?
I think you're right.
It's very frustrating. If you can do it for me. Okay, go for it.
Oh, you're, yeah.
But
Hey, I want to close it. 'cause-
Oh, you want to close that? Okay.
No, Shauna. I was like, iPad, Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Where are his display settings for the iPad? He wants it- I don't know. What's this?
I don't know. I don't know anything about iPad.
You don't know?
Oh, me either.
Uh-oh, if you don't know, then we're in big.
Bigger trouble? Nah.
Let's see. What are you trying to do?
His display keeps timing out.
It shuts off so quick.
Yeah, so he doesn't have.
I gotta keep.
Mess. Let me ask you.
That's okay. I'll just deal with it.
She's definitely watching.
Oh,
Call the meeting back to order.
don't worry about it.
So to save time, the staff updates are in the packet. And so rather than go through each one, we're just going to, move on to the rest of this.
I wanted to add to mine. Could I go ahead and do this because they're not agenda bills tonight and you guys wanted some updates? Okay, on the conflict of interest piece, it was still a work in process for us. The attorney's still working on writing out the 5 pieces to that and the reasons for not doing them or being interested in them, RCWs that affect those in our own policies. So I'm going to try to get that in next week's study session, but it might be June 10th because we got interviews all day tomorrow. The agenda bills are supposed to be in by noon tomorrow. We might miss, but we're working it as fast as we can. Around the financial dealings in the past, as you guys came to that decision that you're going to be looking toward what you can give a letter to the state auditor when they do their audit, that was one piece of this. The other was asking me to come up with a potential cost of a forensic audit. And so I did that. I met with an accounting firm that specializes in forensic audits yesterday. And they did quote me a $10,000 minimum. And that was if it was a very specific request around a specific malfeasance in a specific time. So 10,000. They said their average for looking at the whole year of 2025, generally just looking for anything that could have happened that's wrong, is about in the 40s, 40,000 range.
So what are they looking for then when they come in and do an audit?
You know, one of the things they're looking for us to give them a whole lot of information. In fact, it would take a staff person, I'm not sure how much time. We have to produce all of the electronic documents for this accounting firm, any written documents, everything out there that touches finance, all of our bank accounts, of course, our financial system. They'd have to have access to that to be able to get into it. So it'd be a lot of work. Yeah. Yeah. They do, but you know, these guys, in fact, this company I was talking to, they're the ones that caught Charles Ponzi, from which you get Ponzi schemes. So white collar crime is their specialty. So, you know, but I would say that that's a little different than what the auditor is looking at our finances, and they are looking for anything that we're doing, could be doing wrong, or anything that increases risk for the city and the citizens. So you're going to get a good audit, and we pay 20, 30,000 for the state audit as well. So.
Okay, we will go to agenda item AB 2628, downtown parking reform.
Okay, good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
First, that we rolled by, and were there any questions that the council had about any of the projects or items in my staff report? Got a number of projects and developments, we show class off Christian Lane, got a new retail development coming off Washington. Of course, we've got the new plat, which we'll separately talk about in our slide. Any questions before I dive in?
Yep. Councilmember Reed?
I was surprised at how many unused parking spaces you found when you went and did an audit of the parking around town during business hours. That was pretty shocking. And everybody says there's not enough parking. What?
That's coming up.
It's coming up?
Dig in. Dig into the downtown parking reform. This is not new to this council. It was passed by this council for me to move ahead with conducting a bit of a truncated parking study in the downtown core. And that study has been completed. It's completed as Exhibit A with this agenda bill in your packets tonight. And as Councilmember Reed has indicated, it did find, I think, a bit of a surprising number of parking stalls, noting, of course, that the parking stalls that were identified as part of the study sometimes were, you know, legitimate improved parking stalls. And sometimes we're also just, you know, spatial areas on the shoulder of a right of way or unimproved areas within the right of way elsewhere in town, like along Varner Avenue. So it's sufficient space that is within the right of way that can accommodate parking, but isn't necessarily something that you might think of as an improved parking stall. But yes, the study took place during normal business hours every weekday in February. I did a walking study of the entire study area, which goes from Bridge to Varner to Witzel to Florence, and then documented the findings and photographs, and later studied the available parking. This was all, of course, in support of action that had initially been taken by council about 2 years ago in the interest of its key priorities related to downtown revitalization and economic development, which encouraged staff to be able to explore
solutions for how it is that we could incentivize new development and also incentivize the growth of existing development within Orleans business community. And so the study was conducted and found a surprising amount of available parking within that study area. It did not include the parking that's included within our park system. We do have, kind of separate intentions in the long term for what we expect to see done with those parks. And the parking is expected to be ancillary to those uses. Based on the available parking that we found, the next stage of the study was to effectively stress test the system and explore the potential for what degree of redevelopment could cause there to be any sort of parking problem or inconvenience or traffic issue within the community. And so I worked with the mayor and city administrator on what the framework of that stress test should be, and we all agreed that running a pretty conservative test against our on-street parking availability is the way to go, just to be able to provide every assurance to council that if it takes action on this item, that there's an allay to any concerns that reducing or eliminating off-street requirements within the downtown core would cause, ancillary sort of troublesome effects for everybody else to be able to find parking. And so we really stress tested the system. Again, the mayor and I and the city administrator worked together to be able to determine that within a select kind of a core group within the study area, we select 10% of available space to be able to kind of run through a study that I advised where we effectively assumed that the buildings that we selected within that 10% were raised to the ground and then redeveloped to an extremely dense degree with either restaurant or retail on the bottom floor and the upstairs apartments as well. And so when I say that this is conservative, I really mean it. Orleans does not see development activity like this. But it's good to be able to have as a strong baseline to understand that we're not going to do something troublesome if we take action on this project. And the yields of that study introduced that even in a circumstance of extremely dense redevelopment like that, we would still have sufficient supply of parking in our on-street infrastructure to be able to facilitate what today's code would require of those parking expectations for that degree of redevelopment. The study was intentionally truncated. It was not intended to be able to explore other options that the city can take, such as, redeveloping its own right of way to be able to actually install improved parking infrastructure in the right of way, or exploring other options to kind of support an approach to reducing off-street parking requirements, such as, restricted parking hours. Right now, we adopt a traffic control ordinance, which means that somebody's able to park on the right of way for 24 hours without having any sort of punitive action taken against them. And so, we could, in theory, in the future, maybe look at adjusting that to be able to give more power or resource to code enforcement or to our police force. But that's not what the effort of this study was focused on. It was just on whether the community development department could be able to reduce the off-street parking requirement for protecting businesses to hopefully allow them to expand or establish. We wanted to run this idea by the Oregon Business Association, since the impetus for the project was in their interest entirely from the beginning. So the mayor and I attended their monthly meeting last week, I think. And we presented our findings and our recommendation to council to that group. And as was attempt to tonight, the response from the group was really, really favorable. The owner of Journey Grappling Shop in town gave some really great remarks that she allowed for me to use the testimonial in the packet tonight within the study. And she reflected a lot on 220 Washington, the new white building. And that project has certainly been on the city's mind as a big part of this project. Because we had a lot of interest in that building, and oftentimes the interest is met with us saying, well, how much parking are you going to add in addition to the parking that you've already installed in the back of the building?
Because our code right now would tell you that you need 12 or 14 parking stalls, but they haven't built that many out behind the building. And so her testimonial is effectively, the NETC zone is really favorable for development because it's so broad in what you can do with your shop. But you can't actually make a shop because you can't have the parking that you need to be able to open up your business. Which we've seen at that building and others in town. At that building, there was a brewery that wanted to come in, there was a women's hair shop that wanted to come in. They've split the building into 4 quadrants now and hopes that maybe smaller square footage would be incentivizing to a tenant, and it still remains vacant. So, yeah, just an example of part of the impetus for the project. And then Jason Kirschkamstone, he also spoke, although it was acknowledged during the meeting that he has a bit of an interest in people parking on the street illegally, but he indicated that despite that, he had some good testimony to be able to offer as well, especially with regard to other ways that the city could think about solving this with kind of a multifaceted approach in the future, because he's indicated that he gets calls all the time about people that come into town and dump off their cars with for sale signs, and they just leave them there for however long. Really consumes a lot of the parking infrastructure, and so we could think about, ways to be able to overcome that in future action. And it would be interesting to the council. So the findings are really promising. It indicates that our parking requirements for off-street parking are probably too severe, more severe than we need them to be. But at the same time, we probably don't want to neglect considering the fact that Orting is a very hard to connect community. We have no public infrastructure. We're miles away, even by foothills to the nearest community. And so I think it's realistic to think that everybody has a car here and needs one to be able to move through their lives. And so we're recommending a permanent 50% reduction in off-street parking within the applicable to the NETC zone. And that perhaps there is a restriction on certain uses that can use that, since we know we have a long history of having a challenging time with abuses of the on-street parking infrastructure system associated with our repair shop. So we might think about that. We're not here tonight to ask for any action reports from council, but we'll be back on June 10th to be able to ask for your assignment from the planning commission to start working through that effort. Are there any questions?
You mentioned putting a time limit on parking, and I think that would be a good idea. 12 hours seems like would be more than enough instead of 24. If somebody's going to be out of town for days, he should park someplace else instead of in the city zone. And 12 hours shouldn't be too hard to monitor, I would think.
Yeah, the study didn't explore the efficacy of something like that, but I think that it's worthwhile for the city to consider. We would have to change our police regulations for that, and I'll look at Chief in case I say something bad, but Chief.
He's smiling.
Very recently, Chief changed the police regulations to adopt the model traffic control ordinance. So we pulled off the dock what the state has indicated in the RCW, which is where that 24-hour stipulation comes through. And so there are communities obviously that have separate areas throughout the city that has more segmented and restricted hours. But I think that their police regulations reflect that. And Chief, you can tell me what.
Right, we got that.
Sweet. All right. We have to amend the police regulations to do that.
Councilmember Tracy.
Thanks for all the hard work on this. This is, I think this is something that's needed to be taken care of a long time ago. We keep saying that we're really friendly to business, and then we cut them off, like you said. They say, yeah, we can do this, this, and this, but no parking, so you can't do it. So when you went to the businesses here in town and talked with them, I mean, we got a lot of favorable. Was there negative ones also? Was anybody negative saying, if you open it up like this, then my customers aren't going to have a place to park? You know what I'm saying? If a brewery goes into that building, I don't know, the donut shop gonna say, well, you're using all my parking or something. So you didn't get any of the negative side of that?
We got some questions from some of the smaller shops on Washington, because they acknowledged that, there are some other neighboring businesses that will have parking in the rear of the building on Rainier. And they'll kind of say, like John L. Scott, like, hey, these are our parking, you know,
Right.
you neighboring small boutique, you can't use our John L. Scott parking spaces. And so there was some frustration conveyed about that, where, you know, they were kind of asking questions about, hey, can the city have a role in being involved in, you know, making our business partners, share with us? And, we have a provision in our parking regulations that honor and allow for shared, parking between businesses. It has to be, either off hours, or the other business has to have an abundance of parking. But otherwise, you know, there wasn't any sort of angst against what we were presenting in our report. There was just kind of a call to, a call to the reality that, because we're so built out downtown, there really isn't an opportunity for people even on their private property to be able to develop parking that they might otherwise be able to tell their customer base to come to, or their staff. So there was just that discussion in that regard, but nothing averse to our suggestion that the city take a position that is less cumbersome of expectations for off-street parking being provided by the property owner.
So you're saying that the 50% reduction, for instance, this building here on Washington that you say a brewery could have went into, or something else, whatever it was. Do you think that these lifting some of the parking restrictions up to 50% is enough to incentivize somebody to come in there? In other words, are they gonna run into the same roadblock if they come in and they just don't quite have enough or whatever?
I think so, and let me run that calculation to be sure, and I'll come back on June 10th with the true calculation. They're required to have 4 stalls for their upstairs apartments, as one example. And so if we were to say all uses in the NUTC get 50% reduction, then that by itself will reduce down to 2. And I forget how many stalls they have behind that building, but I'll come back on June 10th with a count, and we'll make sure.
I just wonder, you make those changes, and I mean, a lot of it could be because of that building, or, you know, because there's not a lot of new commercial businesses coming in. We make the changes, and then 2 weeks later, they come back and say, well, it wasn't enough, or whatever. And not that we should just be totally making sure that they can do what they want to do there, but we want to try to work with them as much as possible. And so, and depending on what they're putting in there, you don't know if it's gonna work or not.
Sure.
But
It's a fair point, because we've had a 50% reduction on most business-related uses for the last year and a half here via interim controls that have been repetitiously passed by council. So you would think that if 50% would work, that might work for them, but our reduction also didn't extend to residential uses within the core area. So for their site in particular, those 2 stalls might be really effective.
one other quick thing. I wasn't around when a lot of these were implemented. Mark, you might have been, to tighten up. What was the reason that we did that in the first place? To make it harder, or more parking spots for these things?
Yeah, that is a good question. I know part of it was that was the sort of best practice that we were seeing in the industry. And those shops that did put 20 parking spots behind them were pretty anxious about the fact that the others didn't have to do that. They had to. So there were different kinds of arguments at that time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there's real trend, there's a real shift. You can do a lot of reading if you're curious into planning practice, and how off-street parking came to be. Because if you go to the Home Depot and you all up next to the Walmart, you're like, everybody just parked their semi-truck here, basically in fleets. There is so much parking. How could you possibly need that much? What drove this? And the answer isn't necessarily the best, or very specific. But there's kind of this renewed look at off-street parking on a statewide basis. So, hey, there should be significant parking reductions or eliminations. that's been passed by state mandates that don't apply to boarding. And that was just made clear to the Oregon Business Association too, is those state laws that have recently passed, they apply in communities of 30,000 or more. So we don't have to play by that rule. We're doing this in the interest of being a good partner to our business community, and that much has been made clear to OPA.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the past, now is it a non-issue now? But I remember they used to have the shops that have employees parking right out in front of their shops, you know, and taking up the spots where you want the shopper to come in. Is that kind of gone by the wayside type of thing, or?
If it's privately owned, then the business owner could just tell their staff, but don't park there.
Right. But I mean, I'm talking Washington Avenue. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Do we have a set time limit on the street there?
It's the 24 hours, yeah.
Oh, okay. Just like Dale was talking. How about a 2-hour one?
You have the right, you can tell them that you want to change the community code.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
Revenue? Oh, no. Yeah, thanks. That's why I used to carry a wire brush in my pickup at work. You know, erase the chalk marks. Thank you. Yeah.
What would happen if we went to 25% instead of 50? I mean, reduce it by 75%.
Yeah.
Right.
It's your action to take, of course. I think that we've studied this enough to know that even in extreme redevelopment, that we would still have sufficient supply within the right of way. Maybe not improved parking stalls, but right of way, I was saying, where the public right to be able to use it that way. So there's assurance that way. The reason that we kind of moved away from something like an extreme reduction or elimination is simply for the reality that usually those sorts of indications might be fed by a presence of public transportation availability, some recognition that, oh, not everybody is car dependent and might come on a bus or a bike that's more connected to other cities or something like that. But we don't really have that as a part of the as just a part of the fabric here. And so that's why I made the recommendation that we did. We can deviate from that. We're ultimately going to take council's recommendation on the 10th to be able to work on this with planning commission, and council has a set parameter, a set metric that we should be guiding our work with planning commission. That would be, it would do even more to ensure that the ordinance that gets presented to council at the end of this reflects what you want. So we could do it.
Councilmember Tracy?
So as our planner, do you think that the 50% is a good starting point and possibly could change to 75 or 25% down the road?
Yeah, and maybe I come back on the 10th with the calculation, and we notice that it's still not exactly as helpful as we would wish it to be. And so we adjust the recommendation to 75%. But I think that 50% is definitely a big step in the right direction and very well received by the business.
Good, thank you.
So that number can be reduced, right? Especially the way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because the way I understood it, we have all the parking spots we would need, even if we redeveloped Washington if it burned down and they rebuilt with new stores and apartments above, we still have enough parking spots.
We have enough under the assumption that we made, which was 10% of the structures within the study area that we designed.
Okay.
And those were selected pretty strategically. It was structures that we know are actively being redeveloped, vacant sites, or sites at corners where there's 3 or 4 parcels and 75% of them are owned under common ownership. And so the thinking is like, well, is that one, how long is that last fish gonna hold out before those that common ownership of those three other parcels can approach them and say, you know, let's buy you out, we have a big vision here. And that's on either side of the intersection of Calistoga and Washington. And so those areas, then the old transmission shop, and then 216 Washington, the vacant lot over there, which we know is going to be redeveloped. Both of these we know to be redeveloped, they both include parking. In our study, we said, they're gonna be excessively redeveloped with no parking at all. So it's a lot more conservative than what we truly see. So that feeds even more to the point, maybe 75 is okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
No other questions? All right, let's move on. Thank you.
Kim, do you see that as study session on the 10th or regular meeting on the 10th, June 10th? Okay.
So it's going to a regular meeting. Are we going as a
For a vote?
standalone?
Standalone, yeah.
Because you're gonna come back to us. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Deputy, and it's just, so we approve it going to the planning commission, is that correct?
Right. Yeah. The presented recommendation from the planning commission to the council. So we would take your direction, but the planning commission needs your direction to be able to authorize their work on that. So we're gonna take your direction on the 10th and then start that work. Afterwards.
Thank you.
Sure.
Everybody clear? All right, thank you.
Sure. I just stay here.
Yes, yes, because we moved up Rainier Meadows final plat review.
Yes, this is, I'm going to present this tonight just to be able to re-familiarize the council with this project. It's been 3 years since the preliminary plat and preliminary PUD were passed by council. And so just want to be able to, like I said, re-familiarize everybody, because it's been a little while. And if they're, are you able to, no, you're okay. Sean wears 5 hats these days. So I put together just a few brief slides to be able to go over in addition to the materials that I included in the packet tonight, which is a copy of the final plat that's been submitted by the developer Soundbuilt. Just to be able to walk through this. So the applicant out at Rainier Meadows has submitted their application for final plat and final PUD or planned unit development. And that is an application that'll need to come to council for decision. So just to be able to bring it back and remind everybody, if you're looking at this slide, this is a good image of the early redevelopment of the site. The plat and PUD were originally approved in October 2023 by council. You'll recall that there's a difference between a plat and a PUD. A plat is the subdivision of land. A PUD is the mechanism that the developer can use to be able to play with the terms and the development standards that are otherwise required of the zone. Usually, in the interest of doing a little bit of quid pro quo with the city, which is what the instance was here. So in this instance, the site is about 11 acres, and a large portion of it, about 200,000 square feet, is a designated wetland or a categorized wetland area, and it's buffer, which is off of the Carbon River mostly. And so it really constrained the area of the actual lot for development. And so with that in mind, the developer wanted to pursue a PUD so that way they could seek relief from the city from a few standards. One was minimum lot sizes, and the other was some setback relief. And that was not so that way they could have a denser, totality of dwelling units on the site, but just so that way their lot could be smaller to be able to achieve the same degree of density that they otherwise would be able to achieve if they could be able to build on the whole site, but they couldn't because of the on-site wetlands. The city then has an opportunity to be able to say, if we do this for you, what will you do for us? And the developer in this case offered a number of improvements to the neighboring charter park that were in line with our master parks plan that had been adopted. The improvements include, if you look at this image, you can see what the charter or what the Foothills Trail used to look like. And then off to the right, you can see that they had already created the area when they were going to put the new trail. So if you use that today, you'll see that that improvement's been done. They've realigned the trail to be able to create sufficient space for other improvements, including a new parking area, two pickleball courts, and then a stormwater pond. The stormwater pond is a public benefit because it's sizable enough to hold the capacity both for the subdivision and for anticipated improvement at Charter Park, including additional sport courts in the future, which the city has plans to do. So, so that's the layout of the project that was approved by council. After their preliminary plat and PD were approved, they had to work with JC and I to be able to get their civil improvements and their landscaping plans approved. And that was done in early 2025, I believe, which authorized them to begin construction. So these are some images that you see of those early civil construction improvement days. That's when they're installing their utilities, roads, lighting, stormwater infrastructure, things of that nature. I think that this site right here, these images right here go through some site visits that I've conducted over the last couple of weeks. Once as recently as yesterday. Part of the plat approval process includes the applicant having to approach planning commission for street names. Our planning commission has the responsibility of naming streets in Oregon. And so the planning commission decided at a meeting earlier this year to extend the name Brown Way, where Road A comes in off of Brown. And then Road B, if you're coming into the plat off of Brown, the road right there to your right that feeds into the new parking lot, that's Fisher Street. And you can see that there's no parking signs on one side of either of those streets. That was a requirement of the fire code because then the streets are narrow enough that one side has to have those restrictions to allow for an engine to come through. And then the tract B, which provides access to 2 lots, they decided to name that Bueller Court Southeast. This is all after notable Oregon residents. And then the image on the left shows the wetland protective fencing and the signage that's been installed. That provides that permanent barrier between development and any of that sort of protected on-site area. This is a small park that is designed within the plat. It's designed for the benefit of the property owners of the plat. There will be 41 lots for this project. And the planning commission was really interested in somehow being able to incorporate the name of the Schoenbachler family into the project, given that their families have a really long history on that site. And so I suggested that perhaps the developer would be interested in, maybe positioning some sort of signage naming this private park as the Schoenbachler Trail, because there's a small foot trail that's been developed that connects that park to the Foothills Trail, which the developer was happy to do, and will be presenting the schematic of the sign here on the 1st of June at the planning commission meeting for planning commission approval. And last but not least, these are some images that were taken yesterday of the parking lot and sport court. We see Charter Park restroom right there, still not complete. And then, yeah, of course, the new restrooms, which are adjacent to the fire lane access that comes off of, I forget the name of that whole road now. Yeah, I think you met it. And then you can see that the concrete's been poured for the pickleball courts. The actual pad itself is not installed and won't be installed. The contractors explained to us that the material that comprises that sport court top really needs ideal summer conditions to be installed. And so they don't expect for at least another few weeks to be able to install that. And so, but they are really anxious to get final plat approval. And so my recommendation to planning commission to move forward to council will be a conditional final plat approval. And one of the conditions will be that there could be no certificate of occupancy or COs issued for a building on that plat until our pickleball court is finished. The regulatory context for this and what the process entails. Final plats are an administrative process. They're a type 1. We have to come to council because of the final PUD. That's a councilmatic decision, and also a final PUD inherently includes a zoning map overlay, and so we have to amend our zoning map, which is a type 5 process. So it requires us to first go to the planning commission and have a public hearing, and then take a recommendation from the planning commission and come out a separate public hearing with council on the 10th of June. So we want to be able to ask council today at this meeting to set on the record June 10th for a public hearing. That's just a typical practice that we run here. We've engaged the public already. We sent out a notice of application. We've posted 2 boards at the site. That's not a requirement. That's something that we're doing to be able to ensure really broad visibility of the project. One is at the entrance of the plat, and one is along the Foothills Trail. We have not received any public comments on the final plat so far. And then this is what the zoning map amendment would look like if the final PUD were passed. It requires an overlay of the area. And so I know this is really hard to see here, but this has been prepared by the city's GIS technician. And there's a layer that's been applied over the new plat to show that it's a PUD overlay. So the project schedule, we're here today to be able to refamiliarize council and ask council to set June 10th for a public hearing. And then we'll be in front of planning commission on the 1st of June at a separate public hearing. They'll issue a recommendation for council's consideration. We'll be back on the 10th for that. And then the ordinance that's passed, that would, if council were to approve this, the ordinance that's passed would be effective 5 days later. And so 5 days later, they would likely be coming in with their building permit application. Are there any questions?
Is 4,000 square feet for a building lot, is that pretty common?
These days, yeah. Not in Orting, our minimum lot size is
7,200. So we've almost cut it in half.
Some cities have maximum lot sizes now to be able to require developers to.
Are we talking Puyallup, Sumner, or are we talking Seattle?
Seattle. Seattle's doing some really.
Because the reason I'm asking that, most of the people that first question they ask me, what are we going to do to keep the small town look? And putting in houses, are we going to change the setbacks too from the lot lines?
As part of this preliminary plan, we proved that they did have that benefit.
To what?
Some of the, they're not allowed to reduce the perimeter rear setbacks. That's not allowed via PUD. So where the subdivision meets up in the rear yards along Road B against the existing plat, they have to have their standard 25-foot setbacks.
Okay.
But otherwise, some of the side yards and front yards have otherwise been reduced. Some of the side yards, I think, down to 5 or 6 feet.
So are they also putting in there what type of siding they can use for fire?
Siding?
Yes.
No, we don't regulate siding materials or design.
And how do we do that for fire? Yes, that's
So when they go for their building permit, and whatever their exterior cladding materials are, have to comply with the building code, but we don't review any planning against like a design standard.
okay. Is there anything in our code for that?
International code doesn't require cement board.
Down to what split?
But I would imagine it's fair use. I mean, sound built, everything I've seen them build is has lap side, but yeah, it's possible. I don't know what else you do, I guess metal or vinyl or, you know. There are some alternatives that are allowed, other vinyl sided homes in the Department of Planning.
I know the state law says we're supposed to be trying to get more density. And the fire departments, I'm sure, are not happy about it. We're not probably represented by the fire department to have a 6 or 5 foot, if your house is burning, you're going to run between them and pull hoses between them and stuff. That's just crazy.
The fire code requires 10 feet. So again, we'll do the final plat and final PUD, and then they'll start doing their building permit applications, and that's where the building official will review it against our adopted building codes and fire codes. And so we do have, minimum separation standards for fire, and it's 10 feet, otherwise you have to have a fire rated wall. So would it be necessarily anything closer than that? They wouldn't be building anything closer than that anyways, but if they were, it wouldn't be so much focused on the siding as it would be the actual interior construction of buildable material within the wall.
Okay. Thanks.
Further questions? Councilmember Hogan?
How close do you think we're in the total build out of the community?
Well, Mayor told me that somebody told him that they could develop a farm with 100 houses. I don't know about that. I think the whole land out there. I'm still waiting on somebody to take the triangle lot and do something with it. It's in the multi-family zone.
Oh,
And it's totally vacant. So and it's right there on Harmon and Highway. So I thought somebody could do something with that. I know.
that's next. It's on the west side by the RV or yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah,
Still has development.
yeah. There's not much left. I mean, you're gonna have one or two and just on lots and stuff, correct?
Yeah. Somebody coming in, they want interest right off of River Road. There's some interest, there's been for years now, some interest in redeveloping and doing like a 10 lot subdivision out there. Maybe even 14 if they can buy out the person that's fronting River right there. So I get a message from Baylor Consulting every couple of months revitalizing that project and the interest in it. And we'll see what happens. I talked to them last week. They'll probably end up doing it.
Thank you. That's on River Road, you said? Yeah.
Coral line right there, we got some flood issues. There's known wetlands on Darren's property where the RV park got approved that kind of, extend onto their land.
Yeah.
A little challenge.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Could you set a public hearing for June 10th?
Yes. Public hearing June 10th.
I don't know if we have to vote on that.
No,
Yeah.
no, we just move this to.
No, we can make it, we can make it happen. We'll advertise it.
Thank you. And then just as a personal note to this council, I should let everybody know that my husband and I are expecting our first baby.
Oh, congratulations.
And so
Congratulations.
thank you. And so beginning in September, I'll be a bit more remote for 6 months. But everything will go back to normal.
I just thought you had a big lunch. I'm sorry.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll go to AB 2652, 3-year backflow testing contract.
I'm assuming council understands backflow devices and the need to have those checked annually. Are you guys aware of that? So we wanted a 3-year contract, put it out for bid. The low bidder was Certified Backflow Testing, also called STOP. They were the low bidder. The first year is $18,690, and the second year $19,357, and the third year $20,025. And that gets billed to the customers. So it's a break even for us.
Yeah. Any questions from council?
How many backflow investigations are there?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't know. There's quite a few. People with sprinkler systems. A lot of the businesses, any of the food businesses have some devices in them. So yeah, there's because you got this. If it's 18,690, there's going to be quite a few.
Yeah.
So they have the number when they bid it.
Anybody with farm animals too? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, if you got a hose hooked up that's in a trough, that's game. That's fair game. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Tracy?
How did they come up with that number?
The 18,000?
And the growing.
Yeah, I'm assuming, assuming one that, of course, they have a built-in cost, for inflation, but I'm assuming that is based on the number of places that they're going to do the backflow.
But right now,
Testing.
we know the number.
We do. I don't know it, but we know what. Yeah, we know how many. Yeah, we know how
So
many.
if, and I know not everybody, they'll have a private person come in and do it.
That's true. Some do. That's right.
I did up until a year ago. So, there's others out there that are doing that. What happens? I guess they're gonna just eat the cost if, another 500 people or something go on with the city.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they've been doing them.
So
It's
this-
competitive.
that Contract then.
Yeah,
not something
you don't
they
have to do, the cities, but you got to turn it into us that you had the backflow test.
I
Yeah,
understand.
Gotcha.
And so, but my point is, they've come up with this amount,
yeah,
by the numbers that we have, whatever they
right,
are.
right, right.
And so, 6 months from now.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
there's
500
some-
people leave it and go to
Either
somebody
leave it-
else, or
Well, it's to their benefit if 500 leave it.
yeah,
But if
yeah.
500 grow, if it grows.
that's a good
500
point.
That the city's handling, now all of a sudden they've got 500 more people they gotta check.
So they get paid, and we wouldn't. Is what would happen. It looks to me once we've signed this contract, we're going to pay this much. So you're right. If we lost,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, so they.
We-
they
we could
can't
end
come
up-
back and say, we're gonna charge more because
Yeah.
we've got all these new
Yeah.
customers. They'll be under contract then.
yeah.
Councilmember Hogan.
So the city will have a set rate for backflow inspection then,
That's
is that correct?
Yeah, and I don't know what that is, to tell
Yeah.
you the truth, but it is a set rate.
And then
Comes
they,
from $50.
and if, right, and if the homeowner said, I think I can get it cheaper, they can hire somebody else, is
They
that correct?
can.
They can't. Get it cheap.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's pretty reasonable, actually.
Or whatever the cost is. Yeah, I'd be interested to know what the cost is and how many we are doing.
Well, I wanted to bring this to the 27th if I can. I'll
Sure.
bring that information to you.
Okay.
So this will be moved to the regular meeting as a standalone item on the 27th.
On the 27th, yeah.
Okay.
Your permission.
Stand.
And we go to AB 2657. Council member conference funding. It's page 59 for those that are keeping up.
What does it say?
Because that person no longer works here and that knowledge went with her. And when
Wow, it's
our
private
new,
tour.
when our new city clerk comes back, we will have that knowledge again.
I'm missing something.
Maybe our interim city clerk knows how to do that.
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe not. You want me to go ahead and do it? Yeah, I'm looking to go to two conferences, with the NBC Leo and the National Leagues of Cities. I did attend those conferences last year. I am a representative of the NBC Leo District 6. And also, with the National League of Cities, it's a good conference to go to that you did get involved with other cities and know what's going on within those areas that help you as a city. I think we've been very involved in those conferences a lot in the previous years. So I put in the cost of that conference, those two conferences. I'm looking to move this to the May 27th.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
Can I have 30 seconds, please?
Sure.
Do.
Member Tracy.
Doing his 32nd.
Yes.
I've never understood, and maybe this is a stupid question, but why do these organizations not, why do they leave it up to the cities to do this? Why don't these organizations, and I think it's the same for all of them, pay for this?
It's quite a good question. I know you could put in for a reimbursement from them. Yeah, you can do that and see it with it's like a grant they will give you on a refund. But you have to come. You have to, of course, put the money up front first, then file for some kind of grant or reimbursement.
This is a third of our budgeted amount for this stuff, right? I think we have budgeted 15,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, not budgeted 15. So it's a third of our budget. I just don't, and there's probably a legitimate answer and a good answer of probably why they don't. I mean, if they have the grant program, that's great. But up front, there's no guarantee on the grant, right?
Nope.
We did one of these last year, Councilmember Holland, and I believe we had asked that if you go, that you report out. And to my recollection, I don't know if that's ever happened.
So,
Don't think so.
question, that was the one in Utah
I thought it was-
last year? Where did you
I
go?
thought he went to Texas.
I can go Texas.
Texas? Okay.
Houston.
Texas.
Yeah, no, I don't remember a report.
No.
And I think it says it in our rules.
It's not in our rules, but we did add it to the motion when we approved it last year. And that was one of the things that I think I need to talk to the mayor about, and getting an ad hoc meeting together for review of our procedures and policies for the council members. And that was one of the items I think we talked about, Councilmember Hogan last year, was doing that. And I think you were on the ad hoc meeting, myself and Melanie, and we never really got much traction on that.
Yeah, we never really.
Right, so I think we need to, like I said, I have to get with the mayor and Mark and write down all these ad hoc meetings and then bring it to this council, and who's gonna staff those ad hoc those committees, because I think we need a lot of them. I would like to see a whole list of what are people doing, like myself, I've got the one that I presented last week, the URA, they're gonna come here also very shortly, give their own presentation. I'm on the PSRC. So we need to get a capture of what everybody's doing, and then get other people involved in what those other meetings are that are taking our time. This just kind of highlights, we don't know what we don't know, what you're doing. And as Councilmember Tracy said, it affects a third of our amount budgeted. If we don't know what's going on, then it's hard for us to budget that. I think to that, I'm thinking maybe my personal is we would fund one. I'm not sure that we got that kind of money for 2 trips, so we'll bring it back on May 27th as a standalone. And I don't know if anybody else has, did you have your question now, Councilmember Hogan?
I think so. How many people are going to AWC this year? Do you know yet?
AWC?
Okay, so that's a chunk of change. So, I mean, that's something we have to consider too. What, you know, of all the people, we should operate within our budget too. I, you know, understand which group are you part of, Stan? You are on the
I'm
committee or
actually
something?
both, I'm on committees on both of them.
Okay.
Well, the major one is the National League, National League of Cities would be the one that I would, if I had to only go to one, that's the one I would go to.
Okay. I wouldn't have a problem with that. So,
Councilmember Reed?
I think Stan said there's a possibility of a grant. That would probably be a good thing to ask for. If nothing else, the city wouldn't have to pay for it. The grant would pay for it. I don't know if it's a tough deal to do or not. That's all I've got.
Torres?
If the city has to pay for it, I cannot justify that expense for anybody going clear across the United States.
Anybody else?
I,
Councilmember Hogan?
if one, if you know, we could report back and there is some contact that brings the city of Orting's name out in the National Leagues of Cities, it could be beneficial to us, but that's what I want to hear. What if there's a travel and there's fees? I want to hear what is beneficial to the city. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move this to the standalone on the 27th. AB 2661, budget amendment.
Good evening. So bringing forth a budget amendment for after the first 4 months of the year. This is more to address some of the changes that need to be made to the budget, ideally. The general fund has some changes in revenue and expenditures for this year that we didn't anticipate last year. So the human resources legal fees increased due to some current litigation that we have. We're estimating that could cost up to $65,000 more than what we have in the budget today. As for police gasoline, we're looking at gasoline prices and how we're trending in the gas that we've been using. And we've seen about a 25% increase. And so this $16,500 represents that increase for gas. There is another agenda bill on tonight's agenda for the police radio replacement. They have some aging equipment and we are being reimbursed from Southtown 911 for $45,000. The $45,000 is restricted. So the funds are supposed to be used for communication devices. And the police chief will be asking for that in his agenda bill. And so I added it to this budget amendment. For the streets fund, we received the Department of Commerce grant for the Orting Emergency Evacuation Bridge. I'd like to increase our revenue in our budget by that grant amount, which was $100,940. For our White Hawk Boulevard engineering costs, initially we had budgeted for our TCEs, our temporary construction easements for White Hawk. But we had not budgeted for any of the engineering costs. We currently have task orders with parametrics related to White Hawk Boulevard, and I'd like to add those task orders into the streets fund for 2026. The total remaining on the task order is $282,810. As they begin to move through the process, as JC mentioned earlier, they're starting through the NEPA process or working through that, and there may need to be some changes. For the Parks Fund, we returned funds for the Foothills Trail realignment. I'd like to remove the $217,252 that was the revenue related to that project. That was the grant funding. And then also remove the related expenditures as well, which was $251,158. We discussed earlier, there's some additional things that need to be done to our Charter Park bathroom. We had initially set aside $90,000 in REIT funding, the real estate excise tax, for the Foothills Trail realignment. And I'd like to move that to the Charter Park bathroom. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We're estimating it won't cost the full $90,000, but we'd like to budget that just in case they come across anything that they need to change. And for the water fund, the wastewater fund, and the stormwater fund, in the 2026 budget, when it was presented to the mayor in 2025, there was a tax on our city utilities at 4.5% for a B&O tax. So the city would tax our own utilities, and those funds would go back into our general fund. Initially, when we're talking with the mayor at the time, he asked to remove that from the 2026 budget. When I went back and removed the revenue, I missed removing the corresponding expenditures in each of those funds. So just so that we are clear that there isn't any additional funding sitting in those funds, I would like to remove $98,000 from the water fund, $114,000 from the wastewater fund, and $46,000 from the stormwater fund, which was the corresponding expenditures that were left for that B&O tax. For stormwater, we'd like to add $1,700 to their gasoline costs. Stormwater is very tightly monitored because they don't have a ton of money in that budget. So we'd like just to add a small amount of money for their gasoline so that they don't go over budget.
Any questions? Yeah,
No question.
Councilmember Tracy.
So we are able to use the 45,000 that's coming back to us for the radio situation.
Yes,
With
yes.
a police chief.
For the designated, yes, because the funds are designated for communication. And Chief will talk about that a little more when he talks about his agenda bill. So he'll be able to give you more explanation on how that works.
They just need to drive the electric vehicles.
Because gas is expensive.
The street funds, that's the grant we just got, right? That 100,000.
Yes.
And this for the roundabout extension, the 282, is that just for the Calistoga, Kansas part, or is that for both ends?
That's the cost for the task order that included the roundabouts and the extension when I was looking through the contracts.
But is it the roundabouts on, there's
Yes.
2 roundabouts?
It was for both roundabouts and the extension of Whitehawk.
So that's all for the engineering on it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Hogan.
So that Whitehawk Boulevard, that was already planned to be spent, the 282,
The task orders were signed long ago.
right?
I don't know how many years ago, but it was years ago. And so when the project kind of came to a halt with NEPA, it wasn't put back into the budget. So it wasn't in the 25 budget either. So, but when I was looking through and we were seeing a little bit of engineering costs coming through, I went back to go find the contract. And then that's when I noticed that the contract was at 280,000. My assumption is like they were partially through and then they got caught up in NEPA and then everything kind of just
Went on a hold.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So
Councilmember
the
Tracy.
NEPA thing, was that the tire dust?
Yes.
That held the whole thing up?
Yeah.
Okay, so have we gotten past that?
I think JC, said they were working through it now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good. The 4% B&O tax thing, those are estimates, right?
That was
Those numbers have to be estimates.
that was an arbitrary amount. The city is allowed to tax its own utilities and you can choose between 4 and 6%. And so 4 was the lower end. So that was what we had put into the budget. It's just another way to help fund the general fund. But that was something that the prior mayor wasn't interested in doing.
Right, so, but it says the amendment will remove the expenditure.
Correct.
On all 3 of these.
Yes.
So is the expenditure actually there?
No, there's
Or It was
nothing.
a projected expenditure.
It was a projection. Yeah.
And we can do without that expenditure. In other words, in 25, we must have put it to something. So are we just?
It's just 26.
No,
for-
we don't tax our own utilities at all.
No, I
So-
understand that part. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not being clear. I'm probably not. More likely not. We didn't do the tax thing. So, but we put some expenditure against that, right? In
No.
other words, for the 26 budget for, which one we on the water fund. You're saying there was an expenditure of $98,000. But we're not expending it because we didn't charge the tax, right?
That was the budgeted expenditure. So there's nothing in there. We just budgeted $98,000.
But
It wasn't spent.
Yeah, it hasn't been spent.
no, it's not spent, but what I'm saying is, normally in a budget, don't we put $98,000 towards something, toward a street sweeper, or toward something, whatever it would be, and now we're saying we don't need that $98,000 to expend. Were we just having that money float out there, or what?
So the way it would work is that $98,000 would be, the expenditure would happen when we paid that money back to the general fund. So when we paid that tax, the tax would be collected by the Department of Revenue, and then the Department of Revenue would remit that money back to us, and we would receive it in our general fund. But because we don't tax our own utilities, we never paid any tax, so we didn't remit anything. So the money it was just a budget line item that wasn't
Oh,
deleted. Yeah.
Yep.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
well, a budget line item compared to something specific,
Yes. Yeah.
whatever it might be against. I
Yep.
thought we were eliminating something, is what I thought. You know,
Deputy.
like an actual physical something.
Councilmember Hogan?
So this was just budgeted if we decided to do the 4% B&O tax, is that
Correct.
correct? So it's a wash. And then I think, isn't there only like 2 cities in the state that don't charge it, and we're one of them? Okay, so we're doing good, I think. Thank you.
Okay, so we will take this to the 27th,
Standalone?
standalone. Yes. That-
Make that consent.
No. Oh, I mean, deputy, no.
Yeah.
Standalone.
AB 2662, extension of GMP contract.
Yeah. Current contract expires May 31st. We do have city administrator interviews coming up this week, but even once offered, not expected to start until mid-June at very best. And would need some orientation time. So the request is to extend the contract with GMP for Mark Bethune until June 30.
Any questions from council? Nope. Okay, we'll send this to regular business meeting on the 27th as standalone.
Okay.
AB 2663, fleet maintenance and repair services.
So Mayor and I were looking at the fact that our fleet maintenance contract we had with Quorum probably lapsed some time ago. However, our Public Works Department is still using them, but no longer under contract. And we'd like to go back out. One, let's keep them honest with an RFP out there to get those services. We have a couple others that are stepping up saying they might like to bid on that. Police Department is not using Quorum for that. So we'd like to find something where they also feel like it would work for them. So we'd ask that this also would go to the 27th for an up or down vote to go back out, see if there's a deal out there to make.
Any questions from council? Council member? Nope. Reed?
If we find a contract for somebody to do all the maintenance, then all the departments would use the same and they wouldn't go to separate places.
If I could
Yeah.
add to
Yeah.
this. and
Is that
give a little
correct?
bit of historical context to it. In I believe it was 2015, we went out for an RFP to do this exact thing. We were utilizing Buc-ee's for some of the fleet maintenance. And what we found was that a lot of our warranty work would not be honored. And then we also had compliance issues with the police because they have much stricter regulations for maintenance and everything. But so we went out for an RFP and we were saving, I want to say it was 10 to 15% off of their standard service rate by getting the fleet service deal. So it's a significant amount of money. And as Administrator Bethune and I both noticed was that that was no longer being utilized. So trying to scrap for anything we can get to save the city. I think it'd be in our interest to go back out again and seek out an RFP for a qualified certified dealer that would meet all the standards. And then, seek out getting another, getting that discount implemented again. Right now, we're operating without contract with a couple of the dealerships in town that might be willing to do that. The other item to look at would be for the washing of the vehicles, like with a car wash. For fleet vehicles, one of the checks I signed was for $4,000. And, even if we had a 10% or 15% or 20%, we could save some money because the officers utilize some of the, or even I guess our public works does a lot of theirs by hand themselves and everything, but maybe get a contract with Brown Bear for fleet vehicle cleaning and everything. So trying to pull some of these in-house again to where we can just capitalize on a cost benefit for the city to maybe save a few dollars in these things that we're continually using.
Councilmember Hogan.
A couple questions for the chief, if that's okay. Chief, what do you guys, or does the police department use, who do you use for your maintenance right now? Okay. So those are those non-warranty places? Are the Ford dealers a warranty place?
Because of our recent vehicle replacement policy, most of our work is still.
Yeah.
For times that it's not.
And what are you doing for washing?
So currently, we'll either hand wash so or that's go to some other specialists.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And the only other thing I saw was, I'm not sure, I didn't read through, I was looking for it, but is there a requirement for the quality of parts that we're requesting be replacement parts? Was it?
Yeah. Yes.
It was in there?
Yes.
Yeah. OEM, yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Deputy.
Any other question? Yeah. Councilmember Tracy?
So you say you think the contract is ended. I'm sure.
Yeah, it had a limit on it of about 2 or 3 years, so probably ended then. And they've just kept using them in Public Works. We also had a bunch of Chargers, Dodge Chargers with the police that made it hard for them to use the contract there initially until they switched back over to the Fords.
Right. So how's that been working? In other words, when we send something there for them to work on, are they just doing it by an hourly? Or
Yeah, you're just paying the rate now. You're just paying what they normally charge. The one good thing is they are coming to us. They're for Public Works. So they come in and doing maintenance at our shop for our cars. So that's been a real plus.
So if we had a contract, are they still abiding by that contract?
They
Even
sort
though it
of,
might have
yeah,
been limited?
they sort of are, with some of this stuff, but I don't think we're getting the same discounts and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm all for it, for sure.
One other item that we investigated was Administrator Bethune contacted City of Sumner for some of our fleet, the fleet that's not required for the compliance type of the safety regulations of the police, to possibly have Sumner do some of our public works maintenance on our vehicles there.
The city,
So, the city of Sudbury.
they have their own
They do it
vehicle
all-
maintenance.
They do it all in-house and when you have some of your hydraulic equipment, your lifts and your different things like that, they may be able to extend us a better deal than what we get elsewhere.
Any other questions? Have we looked at what do we spend a year in vehicle maintenance costs, and could we offset that by hiring somebody to do it here? If Sumner's done it, I mean, granted, they've got a bigger revenue stream coming in.
Yeah. I think it'd be a fairly significant investment to be able to do it in-house, to be able to get to that level of certified maintenance type of thing. But I definitely would like to, I will get the number for you for what we spend on annual maintenance. I think that's a good number for us to have.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the nice thing about having a certified place do the maintenance is it's guaranteed. If we get it back and it doesn't run, where if we have the city, us do it as a city, there's not a lot of guarantee there. I mean, yeah, we can do it again.
Honestly, we got stung on a couple new vehicles. We had a Ford V10 motor that because it wasn't serviced at a certified dealership, when the motor went bad, it was less than 20,000 miles. It wouldn't honor it. We also had a couple of Dodge Chargers where we had significant problems with motor rebuilds, rear end failures, transmissions, and they were just costing us a horrendous amount. But none of them would be honored under any warranty work because we were utilizing a non-certified dealership. So
It's worth it to do it.
So we'll take this to the regular council meeting on the 27th, standalone.
And that's just to go out, RFP? Is that what it's?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we are at AB 2665, Police Chief PSA Amendment.
Yes. With the school zone cameras comes a new set of duties that needs to be taken care of. And that's reviewing the photos and issuing the citations and or warnings as they are right now. It does take a little more time than hopefully it will always as they get used to doing this process. But Chief is asking for the time being to consider an amendment to his professional services agreement that would allow us to pay him an hourly compensation for hours that he has to work above and beyond his regular 40 regular job duties when doing school zone camera work. These hours would be essentially billed back to the camera account as fines are paid, and so it should be a net wash, but would allow the chief, some compensation for that additional work. The hourly rate is similar to or slightly less than the mandatory overtime rate of our sergeants, who are typically tasked if those reviews are not able to get completed during the regular officer hours during the week.
Any questions from council? Councilmember Hogan.
So Chief, you would be doing it yourself?
Yes, the preference is for them to do this work, but there are times when they take vacation or are out sick. And as the program administrator, I'm kind of and their supervisor, I'm kind of in a position to be able to best track when they're out and when they're unavailable to handle those. And so as a backup person, I would like to be able to do those. However, I don't like to work for free necessarily.
Right.
So I'm just asking for the amount that they would be, paid for that work.
Right, so this,
If not, maybe even a little bit cheaper.
yeah, so pretty much it's 120 and it's kind of like including the benefit package and everything. Is that the deal?
Correct. I'm just asking for the same amount that they would get paid if they were doing it
Right.
themselves. And then in addition, I would be willing to not even submit, anything until we actually have a positive in that fund. Just to prevent any overages before we get to that point.
Okay, so then your staff will handle it until if nobody's available, or if it's also, would you cover if it's going to go into overtime with them? Because I could see that happening a lot.
Yeah, so currently, the city is going to have to pay overtime for this to be processed, for anybody who's going to be doing the work, because they're all guild numbers. So mine would not be overtime, it would just be an hourly rate, at that same level or lower, just slightly lower, to save the city's money.
Okay, and there's no issues with the guild with you doing that?
Not currently, no.
Okay,
Chief, it would be offered to officers as regular overtime first, because elective overtime is less expensive. But if no one elects it and they have to assign mandatory overtime per their guild contract, that's a little bit more. Helps with their work-life balance as well.
sure, I understand. Okay. That makes sense. That would be great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So you basically,
Number Reed?
oh, okay.
Don't we have a shortage of police officers now? I mean, time?
Correct. We do that.
And the ones that are here are wanting to work more. If there's work to be done, that the council approves.
If there's overtime, availability, that will generally get worked by volunteers.
Okay.
Councilmember Holly.
Can you outsource that work? But it has to be an officer here, couldn't be somebody else,
As their just full-time duty.
right?
I think that would have to get negotiated as a guild issue potentially. But having it be assigned work, yeah, I would have to defer to Shauna on that.
Do you mean like get a
Yeah,
contract?
that contract, because if we short officers, you get, because don't they have to have our officers have so much rank to do it? Or they have to be a commissioned officer or something to actually look at the tape?
Correct, yeah, in order to authenticate the actual citations and provide jurisdiction, it's gotta be a commissioned person to do the work.
Like a retired officer could be able to still do it.
No, because they're not commissioned any longer.
Once they're retired.
To the agency, correct.
Okay.
One more question.
Councilmember Hogan.
And the court clerk is a totally separate entity from you guys, right? You issue the tickets and then they take them from there.
Correct, there's a firewall between.
Okay.
It's just the.
Okay, thank you.
And then I think Councilmember Reed, maybe for clarification for him, the officer can do this at home, right, on their laptops?
Right.
So when they're doing overtime, they can be at home on their laptop. So it's, and again, with the kind of a life balance thing, at least they're home, so.
Right. And the system, tracks every approval and the timestamps, all of those, and so all of that is tracked. And the plan moving forward is to print out, anytime we have these that get submitted to the city for reimbursement, there would be a printout that other companies out for auditing.
Any other question? Councilmember Tracy?
I think you might have just answered my question, because I was going to say, how do we track this? As a city, track it, especially if they're at home doing it, or even your time. I mean, that's what this bill is here, is for you. I mean, like you say, it could be an emergency. They couldn't get to it, so now you got to do it. And it sounds like it's all tracked through the timestamp to,
Correct. So there's, you eliminate the ability for people to say, hey, I worked on this for this many hours and not have that be verifiable because they're time stamped. And there's essentially between our assessment of these that we've already had, as well as the vendor's recommendation, it takes about 30 seconds to approve each one. So as long as our printout, we'll have a total number of approved violations. As long as we don't have more than 30 seconds per violation of time, everything would check out.
okay. Are you anticipating you're gonna burn up all the funds?
I at this point, I'm not sure. There is going to be a decline from the numbers that we're seeing now, but how much exactly, we don't know until we get there.
Right. I mean, I was, we've discussed this before where, we want to use up all those funds and we want to use it up in our department. Is there I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to put this. Is there a way to make sure that we're burning all those funds up?
Yes, yeah.
I don't want the state taking 25% or what they're doing nothing.
So we're currently tracking all of the effort that we're putting into this project. So all the hours, with being the vendor, getting this program set up, all of this is tracked, and then once we have a positive in that fund or excess in that fund, we can submit all of these hours and pull that back into the general fund.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
And the state only takes their portion 2 years, after 2 years, correct?
Right, it's 2 or 3.
Yeah, something like that, right? Right.
At that point, then that percentage will come off anything that's in excess.
Right. Okay, thanks. Any other questions? So we will move.
It says move to study session. What do we do? It's going to regular as
Yeah.
standalone. Are we gonna approve
Standalone.
it? Okay.
Yeah, I think the study session was a typo. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
AB 2666. Sounds like the police chief again. South End 911 return of radio system funds.
So South Sound 911 recently contacted us and let us know, informed us that we were receiving about $45,000 worth of refunds. Most of that is taxes that were collected from the top 1/10 of 1% that was specifically set aside for radio system acquisition and upgrades. The plan had been to use this money to create a combined radio network. Currently, the system operates. System owners are City of Puyallup, City of Tacoma, and Pierce County. And that project just fell through. Their board decided that it wasn't financially possible to combine those networks into one. And so they're returning these funds to us to allow us to do what we wish with them. My request is simply because these funds are partially controlled because they were revenue from that 1/10 of 1% tax, and then Part B was the remaining amount of money there was originally from the police budget because it was collected from South Sound as user fees. So the fees that we pay South Sound for the services they provide us, because they initially came from our budget, I'm just simply requesting approval from the council just to kind of hold on to those funds and allow them to be spent down the road on radio replacements, because the opportunity to come across financing to pay for radios is rare, and I would like to kind of just place a hold on these funds to use in the future for radio purchasing.
Councilmember Hogan.
So you're just gonna put it in the bank till you need it? Is that the idea?
Correct. The hopes would be to expend it this year. And if that happens, I would come back to the council with a purchase request just because of the amount that's involved.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Standalone?
Wait a minute.
Well, I'm just voicing my opinion.
How does that go into the budget then?
That was my question.
Oh, sorry.
We can put the whole $45,000 in the budget, and if he doesn't expend it, we can put whatever's remaining in the next budget. I mean, if we just normally would budget for whatever the total amount is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I imagine 45,000 is pretty easy to spend when you start buying radios and repairing them and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So
They're
it'll probably be expended, but
$5,000 to $10,000 a piece.
yeah.
I thought we are already doing like 20,000 a year.
We are, I was budgeted for 10,000 this year, and so this would be, you know, an additional, that 45 would add to that.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll move this to 527, regular meeting as a standalone. And that takes us to AB 2667, organizational assessment of public works.
Yeah, the mayor and I have been talking about the fact that we've had a lot of disturbances in our Public Works Department, leadership that has left. We have a new, we will be having a new Public Works Director coming on board in the next couple of months. Plus, we'll have a new city administrator as well. We just thought it's a very interesting time to take a really good, hard look at that department and have an organizational assessment done, have them bring someone in that is really adept at public works and really examine the way they're doing business, look at the staffing that they've got, looking at the work they're doing, being able to help us understand, are they being efficient in that way? How are they functioning? It really gives us one chance here as kind of a start over almost to look at them and see what kind of improvements could be made. And some of the council members here remember we did this for our whole city about 15 years ago. And actually the council ended up implementing about 7 of the 8 recommendations that they came up with. It was really valuable for us. So wanted to put that out there as we could go up for RFP because we don't know what the cost would be until we get out and find out what it is to get some proposals.
Question? No, really? Councilmember Hogan.
So that's all we're doing tonight is authorizing you to do an RFP?
We take it to either your study session or your regular session to give us the approval to go out for RFP.
Okay, so I'm good with wherever you want to take it, Deputy.
Any other questions before we? Nope. So I would say we just take it to the regular meeting and then as a standalone. Because there are no funds right now. All we're doing is just doing an RFP to find out what it's gonna cost and that will be the. Okay, we'll take it to the regular meeting on 527 as a standalone. And I had a little speech here before we adjourned, and I don't think I know really. I was gonna say tonight, please join us to take back here at 6 to 7:30 to meet and greet our city administrators, but we're kind of already there, so. I have a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second, two. And we are adjourned.
Yeah.